Hello and good evening, everybody, and welcome to the NLC. It is week 2, day 1 of Division 2. I am Brackish Brit. I am joined by Black Bloxer, who is that way. Cow, you got me. And we have 3 games, 3 bouts to bring your way. And Bloxer, we're already finding that the pecking order of Div 2 is starting to be established.
It really is. Why do we have Carol and Erna sat right at the top of the standings, 5 and 2?
It might be that.
Yeah.
Oh no, I got myself. They've played 7 games compared to everybody else, most of whom have only played 3 thus far. So they're kind of speedrunning their split.
Yeah, they really are just looking to run their way through this entire split right now. To be fair to them, though, whilst sample size is definitely in their favour at the moment, they have been playing against some decent opponents and pulling out wins. The only losses that have looked a little shaky is the Blue-Whites one. Losing to Venom Crest isn't necessarily something to be embarrassed about.
Not right now. Currently sitting 3-0. They are looking like top dogs. Obviously, Carol and Erna might have something to say about that when they face off again later in the split. But for now, that is where we're sitting. Obviously, I do want to hearken into the Blue-Whites game because they had a really, really solid lead. And it slipped away from them, which is something we need to watch out for in their future games. I mean, we have them playing their 8th game today.
We've played a ton of games. We've got a pretty good handle on the sort of things they like to play. We'll bring you more of that, of course, when it is their match. That one's at 2100 CEST, which means it's at about 8 o'clock UK time. Not entirely sure if we'll go that long, though, because we've seen some pretty fast games. Specifically when Venom Crest are playing, they're not tonight, but a lot of teams have been able to find early leads and genuinely snowball them into victories.
One of the teams that's kind of been struggling to convert their advantages, though, is Espegard, who are playing in our first game of the day against another struggling team right now, Anima. 5 games played, 1-4, only got a win against 42 Gaming, who early tier lists have been putting lower in the standings. So for Anima, this is very much a statement game. If they can put on a good performance, if they can beat Espegard in convincing fashion, that would do a lot to improve their images in the eyes of many.
It really would, and as Espegard, you need to get this victory here. You cannot begin to be falling down 3-1 in standings if they lose here today. Is a terrible way to start out your split. And the game that we saw versus Munster, it was not good. Every single lane on Espegard ended up losing, and sure, we think Munster's got a pretty good roster for themselves, but still, not having a single lane that feels like they get ahead and not feeling like you have any footholds into your game doesn't feel great.
No, not at all biased, by the way. We're totally not Munster casters, but no. Munster on paper have a very strong roster. And as you said, in that game against Espegard, they did look very, very good indeed. They will be playing, of course, in our second game of the day up against Lions Creed. And Munster have got something to prove after an unfortunate having to forfeit their game against Carol and Erna yesterday.
And I really am quite miffed about that one, specifically because that would have been a real test of how the standings are actually shaping up.
Oh,
Munster, we don't really know. They lost to Venom Crest, but it seems like everybody's losing to Venom Crest, and they beat Espegard, but we're not sure how good Espegard are. Carol and Erna, they've been beating everybody again other than Venom Crest, so they look like they're a really strong team, one you really need to be looking out for in the entire of the league. But then we didn't get to see them versus Munster, so we don't know how they shape up against what is meant to be another good team. So this one, again, is going to be a real big show of how good Carolina are. And Munster, they need to start showing us these victories, because 1 win, 1 loss, and the 1 forfeit, it's not a great start either.
No. So, I mean, let's talk about Lions Creed. Obviously, going through their opponents, that isn't looking like the teams I was expecting to see. The teams are Espegard versus Anima, by the way, folks. We are getting into draft for game number 1. Espegard on the blue side. There we are. Thank you very much, production, for clearing that up for us. So, yes, Espegard taking the blue side. We're already seeing a lot of bans coming through. What I want to note out is Milio taken away on the blue side.
Usually you leave Milio as one of those red side bans, instead getting taken off quite quickly. Clearly Quarter not going to be allowed this one. The LeBlanc also taken away from Forceland. And this first pick, Cassante, locked in instantaneously. We've seen him as a flex both into the mid and the top lane, and he just gives you such good tankiness and split lane pressure. And so, really good one to pick up as that first overall.
Yeah, and Elijah has played it several times, shown to be very proficient on that champion as well. The answers coming out for Anima here. An early pick Varus, which is not something we've seen super high priority on. We assume that's for Relentless, but of course, with static shivs everywhere, there is... I mean, we saw AP Kai'Sa, hybrid Kai'Sa in the mid lane with static shiv. There is totally the possibility of Capstock going, yeah, I'll just build a static on Varus, it's fine.
Yeah, you definitely can do. Relentless, though, has played 2 games on this Varus. This would be his 3rd in a row, and so it seems like it is going to be his pick. Right now, Espagard, though, they're not interested in building damage. They just want full tankiness. Having a K'Sante and a Maokai, it gives you a lot of pressure in the jungle. Instead, Zeri, finally. Zeri has been let through a ton of drafts recently, and none of the team seems to want to play it, despite the fact that she's kind of busted at the moment. The ability to leap over the wall and just get out of dodge is so very strong. Zeri needs to be paired up with something to give you a little bit of extra boost down in the bottom lane, something like a Lulu. See why the Milio was banned as well, although it was banned by Espagard.
The cat is still available if they want to look towards going for that. We'll see if that doesn't going through. No, instead, Stefanucha is going to lock in the Lee Sin in the first rotation. So, trying to be very aggressive, trying to be very proactive, get these lanes ahead in the early stages.
Frost hovering this Nidalee. I've been seeing it popping up a lot in a lot of different jungles. Solo queues, I'm not sure if it's going to be a particularly good pick on the competitive scene. Instead, Wukong going to give you a lot of priority. Needs to get to level 6 before you can really team fight, but once you can, that Cyclone, absolutely huge in these team fights. And these individual lanes right now, you kind of want to focus a bit towards the top lane, because this Fiora is a super difficult pick to get going, but once you do, if it is in a good spot, you can leave it on the side lane and just have constant side lane pressure.
Absolutely. We are into the second phase of bans here. Where do you expect the focus to be? The cat, I was going to say, conspicuously made it through the first phase of picks and bans, and I think you would have been remiss to leave that up for Kralex to pair with Vespers on this Zeri. That would have been a bit of a draft faux pas if that had gone through, so very nice to see that taken away. And it looks like it's all supports. Nautilus gone. Obviously one of the options that can actively target the Zeri. No matter how far you dash, the depth charge will always follow.
That's why that one's coming off the board. And like we highlighted, you want some enchanters, a little bit of extra health and attack speed coming out from your support when you have a Zeri. And so the Yuumi and the Lulu both going to be taken off. Final ban right here is going to go towards Capstock finally. The mid laners have kind of been left alone so far. Technically, the K'Sante could end up there, or the Varus, like you said, but we're not particularly expecting that one. And the Syndra is just so strong. It gives you such good control over the mid lane and can roam around the map pretty well at the moment.
And so solid answer into a lot of these static shift champions as well. But obviously, they're going to be clearing the wave super quickly. You can clear the wave just as quickly. And I do like to see the Karma here also flexible. You can put it into the mid lane. There is absolutely nothing wrong with doing so. And I think having that there to support the likes of your Wukong, your Fiora could be a very solid option if Anima want to go that way.
Really is, and Anima have got themselves a lot of poke down this spot lane as well. Zeri, we know how strong she can be, but if you're going into every single team fight at half health already from Varus poke and from that Karma, it makes team fights really difficult. Annie going to be locked in right here for Espagard. Now need to round out their composition with a support. What do you want to pair up with the Zeri? This is a possibility. It would be incredibly spicy if it is locked in. Zeri likes things either that can boost her up or grab your opponents and just drag them in. Totally can work.
It is locked in here. Blitzcrank for Kralex here. Against this composition, though, I wonder how good it is, because you've got Fiora, who can riposte it. You've got Wukong, who can Warrior Trickster it. And if Karma and Varus are in positions to get themselves rocket grabbed, then you kind of just deserve to die in that situation, I think.
Yeah, indeed, but it's such a strong pick if you can find that little bit. It's another champion, to be fair, with the Lysandra that, like you said, the rocket grab shouldn't be landing onto, can jump away with that claw, as well as just turning herself into a popsicle, making sure that she's chilling out, not going to be killed up. And so both of these compositions are wildly different, I'd say. You've got a lot of early aggression that needs to happen in order to get this Fiora ahead, whereas the scaling over on the side of Espagard feels pretty good. I
like the fact that Elijah is paired with the Lee Sin. I feel like You can either leave him alone on the side, or with the Lee Sin, you can really put the hurt onto the Fiora.
Oh.
You can riposte the knockbacks, sure, but Cassante does a lot of damage, especially when he goes all out. Lee Sin wants to hard focus in on getting his lanes ahead early. No doubt he will probably fall behind 20, 30 CS, but as long as he is getting one of those lanes super strong, Forceland could be a massive it factor in this game if he gets given a couple of kills, a little bit of extra bank in that early game.
Really can do, and like you said, with the Espagard roster, needs to find a couple of early kills, but can scale later on. That rocket grab, though, we've got to be watching it any time that there's a Blitzcrank in a game. You've got to be watching where that rocket grab is at. Every single time. And it does help out in this bottom lane where you're against a Varus Karma. That's a ton of poke, but it kind of sitting as far back as possible. If you can hit that rocket grab, incredibly immobile as two supports and AD carries, and can get killed very quickly. So all eyes on this Blitzcrank, see what can happen early.
Well, the closest comparison we can make, obviously, was picked in the LEC by... I am forgetting the name. Good job, Brackish, you're a caster. The Jonghoon, Astralis support. Magnetized hooks. In that game, they won, and Blitzcrank hooks played a very big part in that win.
Exactly. We've seen time and time again where a Blitzcrank can just wreck an entire game. I'm sure you've all experienced it in solo queue as well, but in competitive play, it can be a little bit harder to execute because all of a sudden you can talk about it. You're not going to get Blitzcrank out of nowhere. Invades still definitely a possibility, but with coordination of 5v5 too. Not sure if you're going to want to go for that one from Anima. I can still see them trying it though. Just get a little bit of disruption onto this Lee Sin, because otherwise his ganks in the early game can be incredibly potent.
If you could knock him off, then absolutely. Set him behind in camps before he's even tried to go to a lane. That could be a very, very nice situation for the side of Anima. And we are on to the Rift for the first game of the day. Espagard on the blue side, Anima on the red. And we were talking about Spice, and in terms of Spice, we have no Spice.
There's a lack of spice. Yeah, there's not too much happening
Spice must
right
flow.
now.
The Spice must flow. Have you not seen Dune? I'm very disappointed in you, Max.
I'm so sorry. I've heard about
Anyhow,
it, to be fair.
How are we talking about these lanes? Where are you expecting Stefanucci to try and get the ball rolling in this early game?
Expecting to see him try to get into this top lane versus the Fiora and get her off kilter, or you've got great setup down in the bottom lane with that rocket grab, as we've been highlighting. If you can get Zeri ahead, get her rolling towards that first couple of items, you are putting yourself in a brilliant spot to be able to just take over the game. But it's a lot of pressure right here onto both of these junglers, because they have picked themselves up these early aggressive ones that like to gank and like to get things done early.
Yeah, obviously, as we highlighted already, Lee Sin a bit more so than the Wukong. Really, you need the level 6 or some very strong setups. CC and Elijah hits the level 2 first and is putting the hurt onto Vinze in the top lane.
Really is dealing a lot of damage right there. Vinze needs to be very careful. And the Fiora comes online mainly at that level 6 mark. Can still poke plenty in the early game, but versus a Cassante, not exactly the best matchup. And we've seen what Cassantes can do. That all-out is so strong. And there's plenty of good options on Anima to focus. All these lanes, though, for the minute, starting pretty calmly. And these junglers matching each other camp for camp at the moment. They play at a relatively similar speed, and so we could see a bit of aggression around this bot lane scuttle crab. Both decide to go for it.
We do see wards placed in the bot side tri-brush by both of these bot lanes, so they want to be cogent of when Lee Sin makes his way towards that bottom side. Of course, Stefanucci has already been spotted towards his Raptor camp. The ward was placed down there, I believe, by Capstock. So they do roughly know when Lee Sin will make it towards the bottom side, and absolutely Frost could try and find himself just, milling around that area if Stefan tries to get anything done.
It is going to be a little bit quicker out of Stefan on this clear to the Krug camp, but with that Annie pressure in the mid lane as well, you can see instantly roaming down, getting a ward, trying to set up for this jungler. Interested to see if Frost decides to still go for this, or somebody could just walk top, try to get themselves that top lane crab. Everything else for the minute with these lanes is pretty calm. There's good push in the mid lane out of Forceland. Other than that, lanes seeming pretty even. Frost is going to get onto this Scuttle Crab first, though.
Yep, Stefanucci, however, has made his way into the river himself. Bot lanes will continue trading, but it's Quater and Relentless who will be able to get the way up first. Root goes forward. Stefanucha has to flash away to the safeguard. And this is the poke power that you see from the Varus Karma. Vinze is being engaged upon Elijah. Does he have enough mana for the third Q? I'm not sure he does. Both top laners have to flash. Elijah super low. Vinze on the chase. I don't think you're going to be able to get that one, though. Manages to get the knockback. Footwork, however, gets Elijah out to safety. A whole bunch of posturing, but naught but Summoner's Burnt.
Nothing too much going to happen right there. Both flashes traded, so incredibly easy to gank for either of these junglers, and those vital procs, you saw just how Frost needs to be careful. Should just peter out, does indeed. Those vital procs out of Vinze just dealing so much extra damage, that little bit of extra healing as well, and you can see instantly Elijah gonna go for that Bramble Vest, does not want to keep getting healed up on, because that is one of the issues that Cascante can run into.
Absolutely, we saw the level 1 go so well. Quater going to step forward, throw the Mantra Soul Flare out. Kralix, however, will respond in kind with the hook. Not going to be enough damage here right now. I kind of like, actually, that Kralix has been playing more bodyguard than fishing for hooks constantly. Obviously, Vespers is not going to do an insane amount of damage just yet. And so, just make it so you can't really look to all in the Zeri, just by threat of Blitzcrank.
Definitely an effective way to do it, and if you could just keep your Zeri safe, once he begins to hit those item spikes, you're in such a good position because Zeri, such a strong champion. Replay onto this mid lane fight. Forceland stepped up just a little bit too far, had to blow flash instantly, and once again that leaves the Annie in a great spot to be ganked. Top lane no flash, mid lane no flash. Frost needs to be focusing on these lanes to make the most of this lack of mobility.
Yeah. Worth noting for Forceland, of course, that Tibbers is in pocket, which is just as good of a nuke tool as it is an engage tool. If Frost tries to make the way in and the follow-up from Capstock isn't instant, then drop the Tibbers and hit the shield and get yourself out to safety. You see, actually, Kralix is looking to get himself out of bot lane. Looking for an angle on towards Capstock. I think he's aware something's going on, though. Going to step up a little bit. Stefanucha is there as well, but yeah, Capstock seems to be entirely cogent that, oh look, there is a Blitzcrank not on vision.
It's a very, I'd say good decision anytime you can't see the Blitzcrank to just assume that it is probably right
just
on
chill.
top of you. Yeah, just
assume it is right there.
Yeah, it is going to
exactly.
be coming out of a bush, tempting to grab. Stefanuji stepping up into this bot lane. Going to be able to sneak. Needs to push the wave a little bit to sneak into this bush unseen. Has been spotted.
Immediately spotted. The
early.
ping.
Yeah.
Yeah, the pings come straight out. Capstock has now actually got a roam timer as well from mid lane out. Frost is now stepping in. Stefanucha somehow gets the damage down anyway, but first blood will be picked up by Frost onto Stefanucha. Quater is able to keep himself alive with the Mantra Renew. Will be able to get himself away from that. 4 members of Anima towards the bottom side of the map will go straight towards the Drake. Meanwhile, Elijah feeling himself a bit, trying to get onto Vinze once again. Will not be enough to put him at critical health, though.
Right, and like you said, Anima straight onto this Drake, making the most of the fact that Stefanuji has got to go back to base. And you can see he tried to sneak into that bush, but just was not patient enough, stepped up into that lane way too early before the wave had been pushed enough by Vizpers and Kralex and got spotted, and so Anima were able to rotate down not just their jungler but also the mid laner to make sure they didn't concede any kills and then get a Drake. It's a nice set of players out of Anima, and Espagod once again showing that as a team they're not necessarily working together at peak performance yet.
Also, kind of shout-outs to Quater. They knew, of course, where Stefanucha was, but that was a very good impression of not knowing where Stefanucha was. Stepping into that brush, it was like, oh, look, I'm a Karma who doesn't know you're there. Spoilers, he did.
He really did, and managing to pick up that kill, especially because the kill goes on to Frost. You want to be getting this Wukong ahead. Now has level 6, so that Cyclone is absolutely huge, but be fair, so just the Lee Sin. Both of these ultimates are pretty big. Kralex going over the wall.
Will find Quater. There is no flash available. The kill will be handed across. Stefanucha will pick that one up, and that gets Espagard onto the board. The Rift Herald is the prize there for the taking. I wonder if Frost will look to try and contest this one.
And that's the Blitzcrank plays that we were hoping for out of Espagard. making it work, knew that there was gonna be quarter over that wall, and once you're grabbed in, there's absolutely nothing that can be done, especially when you don't have flash. You need to see more of that. Kralix needs to continue moving around the rest of the map in order to get everyone else ahead, because Zeri isn't really strong enough getting that static shiv to be able to fight, so just find your advantages elsewhere. Gonna be the Rift Herald going over to Espagod. Just to see where they put this. You can put it bot lane to try to get your Zeri ahead, but I could also see it going into the mid lane just to unlock the Annie.
Yeah, I mean, if Forceland is able to get out on the map, start having that big effect, then that could work wonders. Or, yeah, just invest in the late game insurance policy that is the Zeri. We will go into the replay here, and Quater, wrong place, wrong time.
Oh, Quater. As soon as you get pulled over by that rocket grab, he's just going to go down. It was a question of who got the kill. In the end, it is going to be Stefanucci. Beyond that play, it's just the Hex Flash. You need it on the Blitzcrank.
Both sides of it as well. So clean.
He doesn't even know where he is. A bit off of vision, just showing up right now on Kralix. Has been one of the better players on Espagod so far, had a decent time even versus Munster. None of the lanes really got ahead, but the bot lane was the one that had the most power in that game when everything was falling apart around them. Kralix continuing to just use that Hex Flash over the wall, continue to threaten, but Frost is making his way down into this bot side.
I wonder if the Warrior Trickster has been used here. Obviously, once we get onto full vision, we'll be able to see if that is the case. The Ultra Shock Laser does not spot him out, so nope, sitting on the far brush, although here comes Stefanucci, immediately spotted. Quater and Relentless immediately backing away.
Have the possibility, though, to get another counter gank where Stefanucci goes in, doesn't know that he's spotted and gets picked up. Going in, Frost.
Looking for it anyway, gets spotted out. There will come the Cyclone. Kralix dropping low, will get sniped out and taken away by Relentless. Capstock comes in, has to use the Frozen Tomb on himself, though, as Stefanucci goes forwards. Another kill secured, though, as once again, the Lysandra is able to get out of mid lane.
And once again, it's a situation where Stefanucci goes into a lane and just doesn't find anything. And sure, you have to use the Frozen Tomb out of Crabstock, but you manage to delay the Lee Sin further and just pick up that kill. You can see already. Forceland, hang on.
Forceland being forced away. There is the Nope Tibbers, but Quater has made his way up as well. The flash will have to be burned. There was a blast cone available, but I think he was worried that he wouldn't have enough time to get to it. Obviously, Quater could just drop the W on him. And if he gets rooted up, that is just a death sentence, even though there's a lot of thrash in the game.
So, another flash being blown right here, and Frost getting much more done on the map. Everywhere that Stefanucci has been, Frost has been there too, counter-ganking constantly and making things happen. You now have an Annie who's pretty vulnerable to ganks. And sure, you haven't yet managed to kill this Zeri, but it doesn't matter if you're beginning to get yourself ahead. We can see in terms of gold, our junglers are pretty even. Our top laners are pretty even, but it's down towards the mid and bot side where things are beginning to go decently in Anima's favour. But still, this game is super close. Sure, Anima are getting slightly more things done, but this one is nowhere near to being done.
The 800 gold advantage for Relentless has manifested in the form of that early completion of the static shiv. And now Stefanucci is going to try and find his way onto Vinze. It's more just going to be a heads-up play, and it looks like Herald will get put down just so that they can secure first brick. Never mind, Stefanucci's going in again, but once again Frost is here. The kick will not secure it. Stefanucci is able to flash away, but the Herald was not actually dropped, so the tower will not go down. Vinze is still going to be able to pick this one up, and now Capstock and Forceland are trying to make their way towards topside. Forceland has to run away from Frost, will get found by the Cyclone, and the Warrior Trickster Bamboozle will finish that one out. However, Kralix now making his way towards the top side. Flash hook into the kill, and the Monkey, no more monkey business here. Capstock has to use the Frozen Tomb, but it is delaying the inevitable as Elijah will pick up his first kill of the game.
He's gonna, and that was a nice play out of Espagod. It felt like Anima were gonna be able to get that counter gank once again instead. Gonna pick up a couple turret plates top, 2 kills, and a chunk mid as well. Espagod put themselves ahead by about 1,000 gold.
Stefan!
Oh! Stefan just gonna be able to get it. It's fine. It's all good. Wasn't even close. Not at all. So, tiny little bit of a gold lead right here for Espagod. And after things were looking a little bit shaky in the early stages of the game, beginning to fight back. However, Anima picking themselves up their second Drake of the game. And begin Drake stacking, you can really control the tempo of the match and make sure that Espigard have to play to your terms.
Absolutely. That second Drake just gets picked up, and we will find ourselves onto the Chemtech Rift. Thank you, Spectator, for not showing me which Drake was spawning next. General consensus, I believe, is still that Chemtech Soul is the weakest, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you want to give Drake's Frost, and Kralex, once again with the magnetized hooks, Capstock is going to be able to get out for a second with the Ring of Frost, but a final Incinerate from Forsland will take that one down. And yeah, beep boop, Murder Protocol enabled.
Just managing to pick up these hooks every single time, and Kralex doing well on this Blitzcrank will be huge for Espigard going forwards as well. The more that you can win on a Blitzcrank, the more that opponents have got to be scared of it, have got to potentially ban it out. And thank you, Observer, for highlighting the fact that Static Shiv has been completed right here for the Varus. Relentless going the Static Shiv build, which tells you just how strong it is, because it's not the kind of item that you'd usually associate with the Varus, but at this point, if you're not building it, you're kind of trolling.
It's basically just a bolt-on to the AP Varus build that we have seen little bits of here and there over time, where you're going for the Nash's Tooth, you're going for that sort of style. Frost has found Stefanucha here. The Cyclone will come forwards as well. Stefan, I think, should just about be able to get away from this one. Kick has to be used. Kralex has shown up, but there is a lot of support coming in for Frost here. Relentless and Quatar will find his way in. Kralex just about surviving it, an arrow to the back. That does now mean that Anima have complete control of the topside river and the second Herald spawning.
And Anima have had really good objective control so far. They've not managed to pick themselves up any turrets so far, but 2 Drakes and now this Rift Herald didn't manage to pick up that first one, but still managing to find their way across the entire map and just rotate better at the moment. And that's the kind of thing that you can do when you've got this Wukong. He's so mobile, able to jump over all of these walls, and look at the vision that they've set up throughout that fight. This top side of the map for Anima lit up like a Christmas tree, and it means you know where Espigard are going to be. Frost, you saw him just hiding round the wall, waiting for Stefan to step up, and as soon as he did, able to nearly take him out. As a Lee Sin, getting beat in the 1v1 is not a great look, but it is the Gore Drinker build out of Stefan, whereas it's going to be that Triforce out of Frost, meaning that the 1v1 prowess is all the way in favour of the Wukong.
Oh, absolutely. Elijah, once again, looking for the damage onto Vinze. I don't think he was looking for the kill there, just again, trying to muscle his opposing number around, trying to win the mental game a bit. Obviously, a little bit behind in CS, but did pick up the kill in that fight around the top side red buff. So, gold-wise will be basically spot on the same. Kralex again finds the hook, and Quater is nothing but a crater in the ground after that damage drops on him.
Players, Hex Flash over the wall, hit the rocket grab, and kill somebody. And if you can do that consistently every single time, even if it is repeatedly onto Quarter, who has been the most prominent target right here for the bot lane of Espigard, you're still putting your opponents in a 4v5 situation, taking away what is a massive part of this bot lane duo, because Varus, lots of poke, Karma, lots of poke too. If you don't have half of that, it makes these objective fights a lot easier, and you're also making Quarter more and more worried about stepping up to any bushes. And as a support, you need to be able to ward, to be able to give your team any form of vision. Really nice play right here out of Kralex, taking the team onto his back right now. Gotta be said, 2-1 and 3, looking super strong.
Did you think I was joking, by the way, when I was talking about the murder protocol? That wasn't just a bit, by the way. Like, that exact passage of play you just listed is the murder protocol from Kralex. That is the most basic, in this case, most effective, seemingly, play that you can make on Blitzcrank. Get a Hex Flash, or just an actual flash, find a hook onto somebody, and make it so easy for your team to secure that pick.
1 minute now onto this next Drake. It's been 2 in the pockets of Anima, and so Espigard need to fight onto this one, otherwise they're going to be down, staring down the barrel of Soul Point. It's been quick Drakes as well out of Anima. It's going to be a Soul Point pretty early on, potentially. Hook not going to land, and I feel like that might be the first one of those that I've seen miss so far.
There's been a couple, but you don't have to hit all of the hooks, just the ones that matter. Meanwhile, I want to look in on the items. Obviously, as we said, 25 seconds on this Drake. We see items complete for everyone on the Rift, aside from Quater, has yet to complete an item. The support item quest doesn't count.
Quater's kind of been a bullied around the map, let's say.
Little
Not
bit.
having a great time in the supportal combat role. Oh, 6 seconds until this next Drake spawns. Good vision for Anima, but it's going to be priority towards the pit for Espagard.
Yeah, we've got the little scuttle zone set up there for the side of Anima. Frost and Capstock are going to get themselves their second turret of the game down. Meanwhile, Espagard are going to start up the first Chemtech Drake, and it looks like Anima just go, all right, you got it, bro. We're more than happy to just pick up the tower, and potentially, since the TP was committed from Elijah, now Vinze can get some damage down towards topside, and this is a Fiora, so there is the potential that tower isn't there by the time we next look this way.
It's going to have to be a TP out of Forceland if he wants to save this one. Instead, going to leave it. And this is what you get from taking the first 2 Drakes of the game for Anima. You get to look at that third one, and just say, it doesn't really matter. We don't particularly need to get it. Leave it behind, grab a tower bot lane, grab a tower top lane, and put yourself in a much stronger position. A huge chunk of gold right here. Brought themselves back to level. Vinze needs to be careful. He's alright. Just going to step back out of that one. That's a big swing of gold right there for Anima.
Yeah. And Vinze has teleport available, so if he feels that way inclined, could try and TP back to top lane, but considering how low the tower is, I think it should be just fine leaving it and allowing Elijah to claim Espagard's first turret of the game.
And with that Drake play as well, Espagard, they blew the teleport out of Elijah, despite the fact that there was no response from Anima, but they didn't know that. Espagard did not... Oh, Kralex is caught.
Kralex!
He's fine. He's a speedy boy.
First time in the game that the Blitzcrank finds himself in a little bit of trouble, but yeah, more of a love tap from Frost, just like a heads up. I see you, buddy. 20 minutes on the board. Right now, slight gold advantage for the side of Espagard, but not really much to write home about at all. 2 Drakes for Anima, 1 just picked up for the side of Espagard. Where do you expect the play to go? Or if all plays were to happen perfectly in the next 5 minutes, what would you expect to happen here?
Big poke coming out of Anima. You're going to use this Varus, who's already now completed that Nash's Tooth on top of that static shiv, and just keep poking out everybody from Espagard. Make it so Stefanucci's just going to step up and nick that one along. And make sure that you can't step up as Espagard on more than half health. These big fights should go Anima favoured because of that. However, Ispa's, really interestingly right here, has decided to go with the Triforce build. It is a good one on Zeri, but the static shift one we usually expect to just be better.
Triforce is kind of the new black for Zeri right now, and I wouldn't be surprised at all to see static perhaps a little bit later down the line. It doesn't necessarily have to be first item, but obviously that's we'll see where Vespers wants to commit as the build goes on. Obviously, right now is still very much the late game insurance policy for Espagard, so potentially just going for the I'm going to be with my team, and deleting waves with static isn't actually as important.
Alex stepping up again, trying to pick himself up. Another one of those kills, and like you said, Zeri...
the one person you don't want to hit, though, bud.
Yeah, Frost, not great. Collapse right here.
Peek of the Devil, collapsing right forward. Stefanucci will kick that one away. TP coming out. Quater with the Flash Match renewal. Vinze tries to go over the wall. Stefanucci is able to get away. The Flash will be used as well. Elijah trying to get some damage down. The stun will come forwards. Frozen Tomb has not been burned. Quater takes another hook to the face, and Elijah deletes him. Vispers is looking for the angle on the backside, but Frost and Relentless are relentless in their pursuit of him. They will take him down. Elijah is going to take that kind of personally, though, as the rest of Espagard will collapse and take them down. Forceland did die in the meantime on the top side. Capstock and Vinze need to get away from this one. Espagard are prowling, looking for the angle. Capstock will be able to slow them down with the Outer Frost. Another hook. Magnetized once again. Kralex sets up another one on a silver platter for Stefanucci, and that's an overall fantastic fight for the side of Espagard.
Espagard going to be happy with that one, but what an absolute mess of a fight it was. Anima trying to go and get that pick. Stefanucci just going to run away, manages to survive the entire fight. Gonna see this one again, so Quarter Frost. They're gonna think, hang on, Kralex, Stefanucci, they've stepped up too far. 3 members about, but just don't land enough CC. The teleport blown quickly, and Vinze right here goes over the wall the exact same time Stefan does.
Gotta feel bad.
And watch Vespers down on the side. So you see all of the big fighting going on around this turret, but Vespers looks like he's like, oh, I've got a flag. Quarter is killed. and then he steps up, misses the laser, pops the ultimate, doesn't really do anything with the lightning crash, and just gets killed. And unfortunately, that feels like Espigard not going to be able to do anything, but you've then split the team fight. You've managed to get right onto Anima, take out 2 quick members, and then it's just a quick, relentless chase all the way down onto the remaining members, managing to get yourself in a really nice position. Espigard not able to turn it into a Baron or anything, but multiple kills and about a 2k gold lead.
Plenty of shutdowns to boot as well, being picked up by the side of Espigard. And the second Chemtech Drake has spawned onto the Rift as well. Elijah can face down 3 members. I don't think they had any real shot of killing him. However, they're now actually calling the bluff Anima here, starting off the Baron. Kralix and Elijah are going to rush forward, try and spot out. And they will do so. Hook misses. And now it's back to the good old Baron dance. Kralix dropping incredibly low, though, and gets taken out. Elijah is doing a decent job, but Forsland has been found towards the backside. Gets sent over the wall. Vispers now can open up. Quater gets dropped as well. Stefanucci is looking for the chase. Capstock with the Glacial Path will be able to get away. All in all, a 2 for 3. Anima pull the trigger on the Baron, and they do not get the lion's share of the rewards.
They do not, getting over-aggressive, and that's the second play in a row that Anima have started for themselves, and it has not gone well. Espigard running straight down towards this Drake, whereas Anima pushing up through the mid lane. Elijah's going to have to respond in a 2v1 though, a little bit risky.
Looks like as long as he just clears the wave, then this should be fine. Instead, puts a bit of damage onto Vinze, but that will not save the tier 2 turret from falling. So, despite the bad situation, Anima are able to get some gold out of the deal. However, Espigard pick up their second Drake, evening up the Drake score. Means it's another 10 minutes at least until a soul could be on the table.
Looking better and better right now for Espigard. Each of the plays that Anima starts not going well for them. At this point, we're sitting at pretty big item break points for many champions. 2 items, kind of a main point at which you're beginning to fear the Zeri, as well as this Lee Sin and this Wukong.
What's very interesting to me, actually, if I could sneak in, is Relentless is over 1,000 gold up on this Varus. Honestly, for a couple of moments in this game, I kind of forgot there was a Varus.
Yeah, he's not looking that
felt
strong.
Rather quiet in this game.
And I think that is one of the issues with this static shift build. Sure, you get a ton of extra damage onto these minion waves, and in the big teamfights it's okay, but you don't get that same massive poke. Frost getting engaged on.
Trying to get out of this one. The hook will not land, but the pullback from Elijah is able to get away, only just. Forcing going forwards, though. Relentless is anything but as he gets taken down under his tier 1 turret. Espigard know that kill means that it has an immediate line on towards the Baron. However, bot side, Vinze pushing very hard right now. Elijah seems to be the target here for Quater and Frost. You're not going to kill a non-all-outed Cassante. Instead, though, Vinze breaking open the base. Forstland has been sent back to deal with it. Should be able to defend the inhibitor. Frost is looking to find an angle in. The poke will come back and forth. Vispers sends him flying. I don't know if it's going to give them enough time, though, as we see the TPs coming out. Vinze trying to go into the pit, immediately has to go out. Forsland using Tibbers to try and play bodyguard. Frost is looking for the angle in. Capstock is trying to go in as well, but Frost gets annihilated. It's just a smite that will separate Espigard from their Baron, and they'll get Capstock to boot as well. It is all Espigard right now. Valiant attempts from Anima, but they're just not working out.
Oh, Capstock went in, looked like he was going to have a great angle, find that frozen tomb. Instead, just ended up hitting it way too late, and by that point, Frost had already died. Anima, they trying to keep themselves in that Baron play for as long as possible, and sure, you get yourself an inhibitor turret bot lane, but you don't get the inhibitor itself, you lose out on the Baron as well, so it's all about what Espigard can do with this Baron. They're up by 3k gold, they're beginning to win out on these big team fights as you'd expect from this composition, and if every time Vinze doesn't manage to pick himself up more than a turret or 2, sure, it is an annoyance, but you're going to be able to find those big fights and use the Baron more effectively, hopefully.
A couple of important pickups I want to talk about. Stefanucci has himself a Guardian Angel, so he can go for the full ham aggro plays. Kralix doesn't need a Guardian Angel to do that. But most importantly, 3rd item completed for Vispers. That is a Titanic Hydra. This is going to be a pretty damn tanky Zeri.
Yeah. This Zeri is looking to be able to leap across a wall into the backline and survive. Gonna be a quick pause. Hopefully get back into this game as quickly as possible, but it gives us a little bit more time to talk about what's going on. Like you said, this build with the Triforce and Titanic Hydra, pretty dang tanky, and I have to imagine part of this is from the playstyle we saw out of Vizpers, where in that team fight up towards the top side, he tried to find the flank, wanted to get in onto the backline, and just got blown up. But if you can find that kind of flank with these items, you're a lot less likely to die instantaneously. Especially when you've got something like a Wukong and a Lissandra to be annoying in the backline too. It's potential to be huge, but it's a slightly less damage-orientated Zeri build, which when Zeri is kind of your main threat right now, I do worry slightly for Espagard come big team fights.
They seem to be playing it out quite well, and of course, the Zeri doing slightly less damage is being supplemented very nicely by Stefanucha on this Lee Sin. Obviously, he does fall off in damage. That is the reputation of Lee Sin year upon year upon year. But he still does enough damage that it could patch up that little damage gap that could be left by that less heavily damage-oriented build from Vizpers.
Quite possibly. Gonna see Vizpers pushing in towards this bot lane, gonna pick up another turret. So far, Espagard making decently good work with this Baron. Now gonna be looking at this mid lane turret, and the poke just hasn't been coming out from Anima. You should be ending up landing a lot more damage onto your opponents pre-team fight with this composition from Anima, but it just has not been working out. Gonna be able to bully this tier 2 turret down. And you have got a good push right here. Somebody will need to respond to Vinze eventually, but not yet.
Never mind, Stefanucha going all the way in. You've got a Guardian Angel, but that's still going to leave you underneath an inhibitor turret. Vizpers has to flash away. Forceland is able to pick up the first kill of the fight. However, Relentless trying to make his way out, but the flash is forward. Stefanucha will take him down. Elijah is going forwards. Quater will be turned to dust. Capstock goes golden. Does not have a frozen tomb to keep him alive. And it does not matter how hard Vinze pushes in the top lane when his base is being taken apart. Elijah will drop eventually, but it's all on Vinze to make it happen for Anima, and 4 members of Espagard will say no thank you sir, take down the Nexus turrets, close out the game, and pick up their first win of the split. Second win. It's 2-2. 2-2 for Espagard. Bad brackish.
Espagard.
I don't know if you heard that. I slapped myself on the wrist for it.
Espagard gonna put themselves in a pretty good spot in the split. Turn 2, it's not great, but Anima falling down. This is now gonna be their 5th loss already. Looking to be one of the weaker teams in the NLC, unfortunately, and Kralix. We gotta talk about it. Kralix on this Blitzcrank. Yep. It was huge. Every single hook that was landed was a big pick, and sure, a lot of them were onto the support, but it doesn't matter. You're then in 4v5, able to move around the map with far more immunity, and you could see it in just the vision more than anything. Anima didn't have any vision. They were losing out on these big team fights, and there was not a lot that it felt like they could do.
The early game actually went really well for Anima. I do want to, shout out the good moments. Frost seemed to have Stefanucha's number. It was this Lee Sin in the first 15 minutes did basically nothing.
Yeah.
And sure, he picked up quite a few kills in the later team fights, but he did not really get any of his lanes rolling. And I think it was more through unforced errors, a bit of over-aggression, particularly in that top lane team fight that comes to mind, that gave Espagard the way back in, gave them the ability to take over the game and then close it out.
That top lane fight, you're right to highlight it. Anima went for a big play and just whiffed it. Did not manage to find any of the correct picks that they needed to. And it just stemmed from the fact that you weren't able to actually get onto these main carries. This Wukong, more than anything, was able to just keep living in these team fights, keep bonking down onto whoever he wanted to. And if you can't take out a sort of Wukong, it's risky, but you're Lee Sin, dealing enough damage. Anima, it was not a great game out of them. Espagard looking to be on the up, but still, these two teams, we're not expecting them to be the top of the league.
No, but it's certainly good to see from Espagard them coming back from a losing position early to close out a game, because in one of their crucial early losses, they had a big advantage that they kind of let go to nothing. Eventually lost out that one. So coming back from it wasn't a horrendous early game, but they were definitely behind, and then turning that into a win, and as convincing a win as it was, it has I'm happy to see that from Espegard, and looking forward to seeing their trajectory going forwards.
Indeed, Espegard picking up a crucial win, like you said, they just need to keep finding these ones, especially versus these potentially bottom of the table teams. Bottom two go down into relegations, face off against some of the top of Div 3. It's not a position any of these teams want to be into, whereas you're looking for that top six to make it to playoffs. They're sitting on the cusp of it right now, a lot more games to play, and a lot of difference between teams in terms of how many they've played, so we're not in too good a spot right now to decide who's at the top and who's sitting more towards the bottom.
Obviously, everyone's looking for that top six, looking for those spots in playoffs, and that the only way you're going to get there is by racking up as many W's as possible. I believe and just waiting for word from production about going to a quick break. Hopefully, we'll be able to set up an interview with one of the members of Espegard before we get into our next game. That's Rugby Gaming versus Lions Creed. We will be back in just a couple of moments. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, everybody, ahead of game number 2, Monster Rugby Gaming against Lions Creed. And, well, scores don't really tell us much about these teams, Boxer.
They really don't. We've got Monster Rugby sat here at 1 and 2, which doesn't feel like it tells us anything at all, considering the loss is against Venomcrest, which, yeah, okay, fine. And the win versus Espagard, who we just saw have a okay time of it versus Anima. Pretty good time. And then the other loss is a FF versus Carolina. So we really don't know what's going on right now with Monster Rugby. Lions Creed sat at 2 and 1. A little bit better. Their loss is versus Venomcrest, though, again, does that really tell you anything when Venomcrest are kind of having the run of the league?
Not really. Their wins against Anima, we've seen that they are kind of floundering right now, and against Blue Whites did beat Carolina, who, through technicalities of matches played, are currently at the top of the league. Although that was, having watched the game, that was more of a stumble from Carolina that Blue Whites went, ooh, a game? Thank you. We will take this.
Yeah. It felt a little bit like they were mostly ahead, and then it just didn't happen for Carolina. And so right now, both of these teams, Monster and Lions Creed, we're not really sure where they're sitting at. What we do know, though, is that Monster have a very strong Olaf in the top lane, potentially, and a really good bot lane with Shaka and Musi.
Let's not discount as well, in their win versus Espagard, there was a highlight clip and a half from Nord annihilating 3 people on the Nico. Obviously, that's happened a lot because Nico is just kind of busted.
Yeah, Nico is just doing Nico things, I guess, at this point.
Also very interesting, of course, Karga, who had been known for the most part as weak side Tonk top laners, suddenly going on to the Olaf, pulling out the aid. This opens the door to other champions he likes, like the Aatrox, like the Yone. We could potentially see these come out if this iteration of MRG allows him to play a carry in the top side.
Yeah, exactly. Karga, he's been locked on the top lane island of tanks for the longest time, and all of a sudden, this man is kind of unleashed. I'm not necessarily sure if he's going to keep getting the Olaf, and if you do keep getting the Olaf, do you take it? Do you want to continue running through on it? Not particularly sure, but just...
You keep going until you win with it. Actually, to be fair, they did obviously lose with it against Venomcrest. But again, how much does that really say with how dominant Venomcrest have looked in their wins?
Yeah, exactly. Any loss versus Venomcrest at this point seems to be a little bit par for the course. I think later on in the split, a lot of these teams are going to get more cohesion together, and then we'll see Venomcrest being challenged just a little bit more. But Monster Rugby, we know where they like to play. A little bit of aggression top lane. We're seeing a lot more sort of just chill in the mid lane, actually. Influentic, he had a great Cassante game versus Espagard where he just sat, absorbed pressure, was in a side lane to just try to stop any potential split pushing, and then team fought really well. And that's all you need to do when your bot lane is popping off, when your jungler on Nico is just doing Nico things, and when your top laner is getting a little bit more aggressive. If we take a look over at Lions Creed, though, their playstyle a little bit different in that the mid lane is a little bit more of a priority. This LeBlanc being picked up with the static shift, it's so strong, definitely going to be a potential ban.
We will expect to see that taken away. Obviously, we don't know if Influentic might be an aficionado of that pick as well, so depends on whether or not MRG feel the need to ban that one away. I do want to hone in on the bot lane, though, because we've talked about Church of Shakur, as it's been called, and Musi, alongside Musi, who's known to be a bit of a mad genius at times. There's some allusions to a certain Hilly, perhaps. Like, sometimes they work and are glorious, sometimes they don't, and oh dear. But they are up against Lions Creed with former Div 180 carry, Spiky, who has been having a really great start to the split.
Yeah, Spiky and Zuko having a super strong start, and this is an interesting matchup because of these bot lanes. If you're in a situation as MRG where your bot lane just runs through people, as they often do, MRG, they usually are able to win out, but all of a sudden you're going to be challenged that bit more. It was a Hyman Nautilus game as well, out of Lions Creed, so you know they can pull out some crazy picks.
There's a certain pick I'd like to see, but I don't think you'd be happy if I talked about it on stream. Anyway, we will find ourselves into draft, and there we see MRG are not comfortable picking the LeBlanc themselves. It gets banned straight away.
instantly taking that one off the board. The Nico, Nord, not going to be allowed to pick this one up once again. Like you said, the highlight play was just absolutely insane, managing to take 3 people out immediately. A bit more onto Bartholdi as well. With this Nocturne be floating around in this meta, which is interesting considering he's not been particularly meta for, honestly, like a year or 2 at this point. The Cat, gonna be this next ban as well. Nobody likes to see it, Yumi.
Glad to see the Annie will get taken away from Emil as well. I would expect to see Emilio gone, although that's not really a Moosey style champion. We like to see him going for those big plays. Emilio will get taken away. I mean, it's so strong that you kind of have to. And I think even Moosey, who likes his hooks and likes his engages, would be remiss to not pick up the Emilio in that situation. Instead, they are looking at various options. We won't talk about it just yet until that decision is made. It seems that it will be... I would not be surprised to see this. Obviously, we've seen Influentic play it. Never mind, it will be the Maokai. Again, can still be flexed though. Nord could take it. And while we haven't seen top Maokai that much, it is the possibility for Karga to take that should the composition allow for it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that you can move around the board, and it just gives you so much off of that ultimate. That Nature's Grasp can just win you a team fight almost single-handedly, and the amount of zone control it gives you is one of the biggest bits. Helios has been a champion that's been floating in the meta and getting pretty strong. It's not quite the just Jinx and Aphelios meta that we had previously after this mid-season patch, but still incredibly strong. Likes to be paired up with an Enchanter though, and there's not a lot of them left. Gotta be honest, Lulu's still potential on the board. See though if that's where you want to go, because you still need to pick yourself up a jungler, and that pool is getting squeezed out. There we go.
That will be the Vi locked in. Obviously, there is still the old school combo of pairing the Aphelios with a Thresh, but as you say, right now, Enchanter's so strong after the item updates, the Echoes of Helya, or the Echoes of Hell Yeah, doing a lot of work on the Rift.
Gonna keep judging you for that one. Shaka gonna hover onto this
Feel free,
Xayah.
my friend.
Okay, Xayah gonna be picked up right here. Rakan is still up and available. It's a great duo. Mother's duo is always going to be strong, and Rakan right now is incredibly impactful. Xayah less so. She's not one of those premier AD carries, but what you lose out on in terms of just pure damage, you gain from that ultimate the ability to get away from potential engagers, especially when there's a Vi on the other side. Any other AD carry potential would just be able to be jumped straight onto by Bartholdi. Instead, pretty happy to just sit and farm up as Shaka right here.
Now, there are different tiers of IQ for ult plays on Xayah, though. Like, okay, yeah, you can use a Featherstorm to dodge a Cease and Desist, but you can also use it to reposition for flash, like, 13 feathers through the entire enemy team.
True.
Which is something that is entirely possible to happen, and the Akali is the last pick coming out of the first rotation from Lion's Creed. That is a gauntlet being thrown down.
Oh yeah, Emil is saying, hey, look at me. And Influentic, he's not really had a good time so far this split. 2 games, not the best. It was a decent performance we saw on the Cassante, but it wasn't a big standout one. Really interesting to see if actually you just take that one off of the board. Off some other of the good matchups that Akali doesn't particularly like to play into. You highlighted the Thresh potentiality. You're still looking to pick yourself up a top laner for both of these teams, and then we think a mid laner right now for MRG, but not necessarily sure because of the amount you can move around this Maokai.
So if we don't see a Cassante ban come out from the side of Lion's Creed, I would assume to see that be picked on R4 for Achilles. Just the single Achilles. And Jace gets taken away. So that's one of the good matchups into the Cassante gone. I think if MRG don't take it away here, then they have to be very confident in their ability to pick something like that Olaf for Karga once again. See if Lion's Creed do want to pick up the Cassante here, which certainly would make a very, very scary composition.
Really would. That engage, that massive team fight would be absolutely huge. So about to say, you've taken away the majority of good pairings with the Aphelios. Gonna take the Braum, just give a little bit more defense. You don't want to allow your Aphelios to be jumped on top of. Like you said, with the Featherstorm repositioning and then just blowing somebody up, you can really stop that with the Braum. So really nice defensive pick. See what these 2 next ones to round out MRG are going to be. You're going to want yourself a top laner and a mid laner, probably. we are going to see the Cassante. We highlighted it. It's something that Influentic's really good on, and you can still flex it around. Just give your opposition a little bit less time to know exactly where things are going. And into the Akali, you're unlikely to get yourself killed too much. It's a rough matchup in the early stages of the game, but you're not looking to find those solo kills. You're looking to get into these team fights, find that big all-out. Although, it is a big Influentic pick. He spam plays it.
Does like to pull that one out. However, look at the Vi, look at the Akali. They are champions that can very much get onto a pick like the Aurelion Sol if it's not played carefully.
Okay.
And there's not a Thresh, there's not a Tahm Kench to ensure the safety of this Star Dragon. The Star Forger is locked in for Influentic. There is a lot of weight potentially on his shoulders this game. Karga will be given the Cassante duty. But there is still the option because, as you said, Cassante is just fine in the mid lane.
Yeah.
You could you could send Influentic top, because I very much doubt that Karga would want to play the Aurelion Sol. But the final lock-in is the Darius for Achille. Okay. That is...
2 gold.
Yeah, you're definitely not sending Aurelion Sol into that.
No,
you're not
absolutely
fast enough
not.
to get away from an apprehend.
And you said that the gauntlet had been thrown down off of the Akali pick. Well, I'd say that you've now taken the other one and thrown it down with this Darius
both
pick.
gauntlets off, falling at the feet of MRG in this game. The compositions that we see, though, that is a very MRG comp if you think about what you were expecting. We have the tank. We have another form of engage for Nord, since he wasn't allowed the Nico. And this time, though, Influentic, you said in the games previously, has been a little bit quiet, but perhaps on this hyper-scaling mage, if he can do roughly what he has been doing before, not falling too far behind, just kind of chilling, just waiting until that 30 or so minute mark, when that Stardust ticks to 11, drop the skies on them, and it could be a good way to get over the top of the insane damage that we are seeing from the likes of the Emil, Spiky on that more traditional hyper carry. And especially since Shuka is going to kind of struggle to make big feather plays happen with that one there.
And it's a really interesting set of compositions out of both of these teams in that you've got the elements that really want to find plays early. You know, Vi, constantly wanting to gank Zyra Khan, that's an early game bot lane. And then both teams have got that late game insurance here. Aphelios, once he hits 3 items, that's a huge spike for this champion. Going to be absolutely huge. And like you said, this Aurelion Sol, also massively powerful in the later stages of the game, does not tick to a particularly high amount of damage in the early game. So you've got late game insurance.
Would you say that it's a huge spiky on that champion?
No, I wouldn't.
I would.
No. Ignoring him. Yeah.
Thank you, production. Even production's done with me. This is
How I love you.
See behind the scenes of a production with Brackish Bread on it. But we said 2 compositions that do scream the names of the teams that have picked them. And it now comes down to execution. Who can pull those ones out? Faster, better, stronger, I guess.
Yeah.
And looking across those lanes, where do you expect the majority of any early game scuffles to happen?
Bot lane needs to be finding a lot of early aggression, and we know that Shaka and Musi can do so. They're incredibly strong in those 2v2s, and Musi on this Rakan, we've seen him ball out many, many times. The Braum, though, can stop a lot of these big plays, so you need to be careful to not end up in a situation where you get caught by that Winter's Bite stacked up and just take it down, because sure, Aphelios scales really well into the late game, but it's not like he does a little tiny amount of damage during the early stages. But more than that, I'm watching these junglers. Maokai, great at early ganks, but Vi? Yeah, that champion has to gank early. Once you hit level 6, that cease and desist should be getting at least a flash, if not a kill, every single time. And it's a lot of pressure to put on Bartholody, so he needs to live up to that.
We'll see if that ends up being the case as we are on to the Rift for our second game of the day. Munster Rugby Gaming versus Lions Creed. We see the line of scrimmage being set up as per normal. Well, again, spice set to a minimum. This is some English cooking if I've ever seen it.
God, you're on good form today. God, you're on good form today. Like you said, though, it's just going to be the 5-point stance out of both of these teams. Neither of these compositions are particularly great on that early invade. Anytime you have a Braum, there is the possibility, just because of how strong those early stacks can be. Instead, we're not going to see too much happening. Looks like Bartholomew gonna start up towards this top side of the map, looking to cover off his bot lane. And in the mid lane, Influentic picked this Aurelion Soul into this Akali. You have to be so careful, because if Influentic gets himself killed during the other stages of the game, either solo or to a gank, that just ruins the game.
Oh, speak of the devil, Influentic immediately stepping out, Bartholdi and Achille going forwards, as is Emil. And straight away, Nord is just going to piece out of that situation. And it looks like
they're
going to
go.
A commit. They are looking for the angle. Achille does not have the apprehend. Nord, however, is forced off of his top side jungle. And Emil is also kind of denying Influentic from getting in. We'll take a little bit of damage from the Breath of Light. But now we see it turn to... Well, I was going to say standard, but no, this is a complete split map situation. Yeah. Nord needs to get the blue buff of Bartholdi here, otherwise he is going to be so far behind in this early game.
Really is going to be, like you said, split map situation, and it was also built off the fact that Emil got that ward onto the chickens, knew that all of a sudden, you know, you're not seeing where Nord is starting, you know that he's putting himself up towards the top side, and this is just bullying that you can do on the Vi. Vi is a incredibly strong early game champion. It's going to be spotted out right here, but at this point it doesn't really matter. As Lions Creed, the bottom side of the map is yours, and as MRG, the top side of the map is yours. Going to see a little bit of a disconnect out of Achille. He's going to jump back in pretty quickly though, nothing going too badly wrong. We've seen some slight issues with Tournament Realm recently, but right now, Bartholdi going straight over towards his own top side. And I think that you're pretty happy with this, to be fair, as Monster, because your bot lane are going to be pushing up so much, and you've got your jungle right there to be able to help you out.
Bartholdi is now stepping towards the bot side of the map. However, the bot side of Monster OP Gaming are already in there, making sure that Nord is able to get both the wolves and the blue buff before making his way out. However, Zuko and Spiky looking to find the way forwards. It is Nord that gets caught here, but the flash will get him out. Emil had to leave mid lane as well, or chose to, which means that Influentic able to chill on the mid lane, pick up a little bit more farm for himself. Obviously, that is a flash off the jungler that does stunt Nord's early game aggression and make him more vulnerable. But at the end of the day, that's not a huge price to be paid, and he's up on CS against Bartholdi here.
You're gonna see just a flash blown out of Nord down towards the bottom side, whereas Spiky and Bartholdi, Ghost's flash is blown off of these two. Does mean a lot less aggression can come out of this Vi. You kind of rely on that flash to get you that little bit of extra engage with the Vault Breaker, and the Ghost on Spiky. It's everything that you need to get those early aggressive plays. Influentic having a pretty bad time of it. He's got very low mana, only about a quarter of his health bar as well. And this is how we expect this play to go.
Can I double check with production what runes Influentic is going for? Because that Sapphire Crystal speaks to me that he's going for the futures market, try and back for the earliest possible pickup of the... Oh, Boots Cookies, okay. So, no futures market. There is a tech that you see by starting the Sapphire Crystal. Obviously, that will probably be... Actually, it's interesting. I was always thinking way back in the day. I think Sapphire Crystal used to build into tier way back when. That's how old I am, folks.
Yeah, that's definitely not how it works at this point in the game.
No.
But, right. It's an interesting start out of Influentic. Bot lane continuing to wail onto each other. And in terms of farm, Bartholdi sat quite far ahead at this point. Odd. Is that Ghost popped out of Shaka?
It was. That was a little bit spicy.
For why?
Like, trying to get the damage down. I think forgot Unbreakable was a thing, maybe? Was trying to set up the feathers. Did not come through. Meanwhile, we get a brief look towards top side. Karga is kind of just chilling, is doing pretty well into Achille. Will spot Bartholdi here, needs to be careful. Obviously, he is not level 6 yet. He's not got all those items yet. Gets the level 6 though, and Bartholdi immediately says, yeah, no, we're not doing that. However, hits the knock up towards the bot side. Nord is making his way around as well, but there is a whole wave to clear out. I believe Lions Creed are aware that Nord is here. And yeah, they are immediately going to peace out upon spotting Nord. That does mean, however, that a couple of plates can be chipped away by the side of Munster's bot lane. Bit of extra early gold into Shaka.
Just getting bullied out is Lions Creed's bot lane. The Unbreakable doing work right here, keeping Zuko and Spique alive. But it doesn't matter particularly because Shaka and Musi are getting everything that they want to do done. They're up in CS, they've got that constant pressure, and Nord perfectly happy to sit down here and just constantly give protection.
Gotta watch out though, Bartholdi is here. Spiky and Zuko are incredibly low, but if the Vi chooses to make a play happen, it doesn't seem like it will. Emil, however, putting a lot of damage. Influentic will be forced to back away.
Gonna back out of that one, and this is what Shaka and Musi like to do to opponents, just bully them out, constantly getting pressure, and this is a situation where Spiky and Zuko are gonna have to quickly clear this wave, because Shaka, Musi, they're coming back with a ton of good items. Boots already completed for Musi, so I do not expect him to be sitting in this bottom lane any longer. As soon as Shaka has that level 6, he's going to be able to use that Feather Storm to keep himself safe, and that unlocks Musi onto the rest of the map to just get aggressive and find plays for everybody else.
I also love the fact that Shaka was going so aggressive, despite starting with the Cull. Musi gonna deny Spiky's back. However, during that time, Bartholdi is able to step into the river, will pick up the first Drake of the game, and Achille, with the Ghost, has found himself a dragon in the mid lane. Emil will eagerly execute perfectly and step into picking up that first blood for Lions Creed.
Uh-oh. What did we mention earlier on? If Emil manages to get an early kill, things get incredibly tricky for Influentic. Getting picked up on the early roam out of Achille.
May I have your attention?
Yes.
That's a Kachea shard.
Yes,
this
already.
Yeah, no, but more to the point. It's not just a LeBlanc tech, everybody. Everybody.
Yes.
Everybody is building static shiv on AP nowadays.
It's just so standard. It just gives you so much extra wave clear, which is something Akali's not bad at, but helps out. And then also, any champion with a dash can just be landing all of that damage onto minion waves and onto champions without needing to be anywhere nearby. And Emil just going to be able to keep bullying out Influentic. This champion, the Aurelian Soul, he's good on a roam, but Akali is better, and with this wave constantly being pushed in, it unlocks Emil to just step out of vision. And as soon as you do that, the bot lane of Shaka and Musi, Karga top lane, just need to be a little bit careful. You can see Swap coming through.
You know what I always thought? It's like, gee, Akali really needed more wave clear.
Yeah. Definitely not the kind of thing that you want to be playing up against. Shaka and Musi going straight towards the top lane, and this has left Spiky in a pretty bad matchup. Sure, he's able to farm pretty easily against this Cassante, but you're unlocking free push for Shaka and Musi and just roaming your bot lane across the map, looking to get them ahead as much as possible. It is the MRG way.
Yep, and they will send Shaka straight back towards the bot lane. It was just a nice, clean Herald play. Nord will pick that one up. And they'll look, obviously, to put some more gold into their carries' pockets as the minutes go on. So, 9 minutes on the board. There is a slight advantage, like 600, 700 gold for the side of MRG, just built up from farming and, of course, not leaving lanes, whereas Lions Creed have been very, very eager to look for roams, look for plays. They've only got the one kill thus far. We'll see if more can come through. Flash in onto Influentic.
No.
Yep, you can drop that as much as you like, my friend. Bartholdi is going to take that one out. Emil dropping incredibly low. There is Musi here, looking potentially with the Ignite, but unfortunately, nothing to be found. And Influentic needs to not be getting caught by these, because that is a point of blading that MRG can ill afford.
This is 2 out of the 3. Oh, close for Musi. 2 out of the 3 early win conditions for Lions Creed going in your favour. Vi getting early ganks and kills. Good, this has happened. Emil getting himself an early kill onto the Aurelian. The only thing that hasn't happened yet is this Darius needs to find a couple of kills. But we've seen recently that actually Darius, even without early kills, if he just gets into these team fights even, is such a good bodyguard and space maker for the rest of the team. You don't want to step up to him, don't want to get apprehended, and he can heal for so much just standing in the back line that it unlocks so much extra space for somebody like Spiky. Just sit there and lay down the damage as Ophidios loves to do, especially with that sniper gun.
Musi stepping down towards the bot side as well. The damage will get put down. Influentic again taking just a massive chunk to his health bar for being so bold as to even step up to his lane brush.
Just don't get to right now, and Musi, Shaka, not enjoying this lane
Nods awaiting
much, but they're up by 20 CS. Both of these junglers down in the bot side, potential roam out of Emil as well.
Yep, Bartholdi is towards the bottom side as well. I think Nord is more aware of the fact that the Vi could be looking for something, understands that his Aurelion Sol cannot get out of mid lane right now under all of this Akali push. And so instead, just gonna again play bodyguard for a moment. Shakur and Musi have been told, I imagine much to their chagrin, that yeah, no, they can't really try and do anything here.
Just gonna have to keep absorbing this pressure, building themselves a nice lead, so it's not like MRG's bot lane are feeling pretty bad about themselves, but it's early pressure coming out of Lion's Creed down towards the bot side. It's a switch from how we expect this lane to go. Sure, during the early few levels, it was Shaka and Musi getting the push, but now, as soon as BK picked up this BF sword, just getting himself in a much nicer spot. Bartholdi spending a lot of time down in the bot lane, though, leeching out all of that XP and not finding anything for it at all.
Ooh, Nord's going to watch out here. Emil is waiting on the sideline. Influentic looking for the angle in as well. Spiky will not get out of that one. Musi wrecks it up. And that will be the first kill on the board for MRG. Just as the Chemtech Drake spawns, there should not be a thing that Lion's Creed can do about this one.
Absolutely not, and in that fight, Emil was sat right onto the back line, looking to go in with that perfect execution, but just wasn't able to. The second that Spiky stepped up, just got leapt on top of, and that's what you get out of the Nature's Grasp. Nord playing this champion pretty well at the moment. Maokai, he just buys you so much space around objectives. You cannot step up, and if you do, you will lose out. This Herald should be able to pop this bot lane turret, and Shaka and Musi getting a huge injection of gold.
More specifically, Shaka and Nord sharing that one. Musi, being the good guy he is, will step away, not make that gold be split 3 ways. If production, we can have a look at the gold right now. I would love to see what that has done. And we already see a 2,000 gold lead in the bottom lane for Shakur. So Cull, plus the assist, plus the CS lead, plus those plates that have been funneled into him. This is a fantastic spot for MRG's ADC to be in.
Really is. And MRG's bot lane, they tend to get themselves this kind of lead. And they're rotating around the map so well. Shaka, every time he bases, he takes a look at where everybody else is at. Where can he just find the easiest farm? Up against this Darius, as long as you don't step into that apprehend range, it'd be just fine to farm yourself up. And this is also a benefit that you do get out of having the Aurelion Sol. You're able to step up a little bit further, knowing that this dude can just come flying over the walls and get involved with your fights. You need to be scared about stepping too far forwards.
Nord going to be playing bodyguard for Shakur and Musi. Achilles and Zuko just going to have to content themselves with clearing some wards right now. No objectives to be picked up right now, although the Herald is spawning very soon, hence the major topside pressure. Of course, Kaga has been sent. Musi actually looking for the aggression forwards. Achilles taking a lot of damage, but he hasn't dropped yet. Cease and desist used onto Shakur. Here comes Influentic. The damage will come down. Zuko is the first to fall. Achilles will drop as well. Gets taken down by Nord. And Kaga sends Bartholdi to Brazil. One more hit will do it, but it's not quite enough. Emil, however, will drop to Shakur. Kaga trying to make sure there is no way out for Bartholdi. He will drop, but he will at least get the kill across to Influentic. And that overall being a 3-for-2 in favor of MRG. And of course, Nord still alive, still healthy, can look to pick up that second Herald as well.
Super good fight right there out of MRG. You can see once again that Nature's Grasp managing to pick up so many different champions. Stop them from being able to do anything. We're going to jump into a quick replay here. Achilles, he seems like he's going to be fine. You know, Darius, pretty tanky. Absolutely not. Gets shredded with the initial burst. And then watch Musi on this knock-up right here. Manages to keep everybody alive. There comes the big Grand Starfall as well. Not Grand Starfall on the already, so Voice of Light even. That all out of Kaga. Just keeping Bartholdi away from this team fight, allowing the carries to be able to do their thing. Unfortunately, he does get a little bit too aggressive right here. Takes far too many shots. Influentic able to clean it up though, and this is much better out of Influentic. Sure, the early couple of fights were not great, but it doesn't matter. Once you get into these big team fights and you're able to lay down damage onto everybody in the area, Rylai's completed now, which makes team fighting that much harder when you're constantly slowed.
Definitely, and that has ballooned the gold lead for MRG up towards 3,000 right now. Obviously, looking towards the map right now, there's still 90 seconds until the next Drake comes up, although Emil is looking to perhaps get a little spicy towards Shakur. Not quite going to be able to find it. What do you expect the teams to be prioritizing these next 90 seconds, beyond, obviously, having control of that bot side ready for Drake?
Need to get yourself a push up in the top lane. Killy moving his way forwards right now, but like you said, 90 seconds, needs to take a base if he wants to join for this team fight. Whereas Kaga also without that teleport, just gonna have to be able to catch that wave. Be interesting to see if the top laners do decide to join. The All Out is such a huge ability that you'd have to expect Kaga to run his way down, beginning his journey currently. And other than that, just all of the vision control is in MRG's favour. They've got the river lit up like a Christmas tree, and it's just that scuttle vision, really, that's giving Lion's Creed any view into the pit.
With 45 seconds until the Drake comes up as well, that scuttle zone might end up disappearing, so very much on Lion's Creed to get in there, clear out the vision MRG has set up. However, Botoldi currently looking to see if he can maybe take advantage of an overextended Kaga towards the top lane. Footwork, though. That little dash is often all you need to keep yourself safe in a play like this. Botoldi, however, now has been seen topside, which means MRG can step in all the more, get all the more vision set up.
Gonna be perfectly happy to just pick this one up nice and easy for MRG. And you can understand the idea from Botoldi. Kaga is quite far up, but he has the flash, he has the footwork, like you said, and he's also a pretty tanky guy right now. Not entirely behind this play, and you're going to be able to pop this Rift Herald too. No turret plates mean that it's not going to be the most impactful, but still, that's a huge chunk of this mid lane tier 1's damage just gone. Need to unlock the map for MRG. They're sat currently about 2k gold lead. Things onto the mid lane. Going to be able to get back in time to just pick up this wave, so nothing really lost right here for MRG. Lion's Creed trying something, and it does not work out.
Stacking up the Stardust on Influentic right now, waiting for the skies to descend once again. And we'll look forward. 2 minutes until Baron comes up. This is a very much just a neutral game state. MRG don't necessarily need to do anything. Maintain their vision. See if Lion's Creed do anything a little bit foolish and punish it accordingly.
Taking stock of the game right now. 2 turrets for MRG, 2 Drakes, and a chunk of gold too. Feeling very good about this one, but thing is, Spike here comes online pretty soon. This Akali, super strong at the moment as well, if he can get into the backline, but with that Gale Force completed, it's just a little bit of extra protection for the Aphelios. It's that next item being completed that really unlocks him onto the map and makes you be a little bit scared of him.
Actually, for Emil, quite interesting to see. We normally see the build...
Never
mind.
No.
Emil trying to go forwards towards the top side, looking to get away, but the perfect execution is anything but. The ignite from Musi will mean the death of Emil. Bartoldi steps forward to try and save his mid laner, and all of a sudden has to flash away himself. Perhaps feeling himself a little too much. What I was talking about, though, we see the leeching layer. Normally, this build that we would see coming out from a static Shiv builder, we see Shiv into Night Harvester because Night Harvester gets procced off the lightning. Instead, going for that more durable teamfight option with the Riftmaker.
Yeah, you can understand why he wants to do that, just to be able to survive, but survive not happening right now. That pullback of the feathers landed onto so many. You can see extra bit of damage. Fails the perfect execution, forced to flash, and Musi's having none of it. Flashes over, lands the ignite, and that's just the BM kill right there. Emil just gonna tick down, burn to death, forcing the flash out of the jungler as well. And at this point, yeah, Shaka hurts. Shaka really hurts. Has completed those extra bit of damage with that Kraken Slayer, but more than anything, just playing this positioning really well. Shaka is stepping up with pretty much immunity because he knows Musi's got his back, and if he doesn't, has always got that leap into the air to keep himself alive.
We actually didn't see it, but Achille did try to find Shaka towards the top side, but as you saw, Featherstorm was I believe Featherstorm was available, Flash was used, and at the end of the day, Achille had to flee away from this one, and MRG very aggressively looking towards a Baron here. Bartoldi needs to try and find a way in. Musi is going to say no, however, out comes the ultimate as well from Nord. Baron is already gone before Lion's Creek can do anything. Bartoldi looking to get the damage down. Influencer will survive. Emil tries to get in, but Shakar will take him down. Double kill already for the Xayah. And he's going to look and pick up another one. Influentic grabs one, Karga does as well. And a Baron gets picked up, and Lion's Creed throw 4 bodies into the grinder for not a thing.
4 bodies? Okay, they're gonna let Achille go. And again, Achille go, not gonna get too aggressive. Shakur pushing through this mid lane right now. Gonna be able to pick up the outer turret, possibly even the inner turret. Yeah, with Achille having to run back to base, not even allowed to take the proper base. Gonna be 2 turrets right into the pocket of Shakur. He was already dealing plenty of damage with those quick blades. Now gonna be sitting in an even better position. MRG, they are squeezing the life out of Lions Creed. It's the way that they played in that Espegard game, and it's the way that they're playing this one that makes me think this is the style we can expect right here. MRG looking super strong. Lions Creed kind of floundering. Sure, the early couple of levels wasn't terrible for them, but since I'd say about 5 minutes, they've not managed to find an actual foothold in this game.
And I need to zoom back in on the bot lane here, Bloxer. Look at Shakur, 307. 3 items completed. Look at Spiky. Mythic, 2. half an item.
Yeah.
I'd love to see the actual gold numbers because it's got to be something to the tune of like 5k plus.
It's just such a huge difference between these two, and you can really feel it. Aphelios, we know how strong this champion can be, but not on 1.5 items. Not when you haven't even completed that second one. Not in a good position right now, and we know how good Spike can be. This is not a slouch.
Who is this oh no for? Karga is the one who finds himself engaged upon. Could try and use an all-out to get out. Will use it on the Bartholdi. Unfortunately, will get caught up by the cease and desist and get taken down. So, nice from Lions Creed to get something out of this situation while MRG had the Baron. But the pushes are still coming through. The last standing gold outside of the base is being targeted. The bot lane inner turret will drop. Top lane one is there and available as well. You've still got about a quarter of that Baron duration left. There's still plenty more in the tank for MRG.
Really is feeling pretty good about themselves. Sure, you end up missing out on Karga, but it's not the end of the world. In that straight 1v1 between Karga and Emil, I'm not entirely sure who comes out on top. Emil not looking too hot at the moment, but it's these big team fights where the gold lead really comes out to play. Currently sat at about 7k. The next Drake going to be spawning in 5 minutes. It's the Baron that's going to be the thing to play for right now. 3 minutes on that one. You can begin setting up in a couple of minutes time. Until then, just keep the pressure up as MRG. Things are going well for you. It's Lions Creed who need to find a way into this game, but it's so difficult. There's such good protection right now for Shaka, who's able to just absolutely blast your team. And Influentic, he's kind of dancing around on the backline, and every single time that he manages to hit that falling star, it burns for so much damage with the Leandries.
Influentic is going to try and get out with the Astral Flight. Will be able to just about make it out. Bartholdi rather, trying to set up for Emil, has to use the cease and desist onto Nord. The ultimate will not be able, the Vault Breaker rather, not going to be able to get him away. The Astral Flight does get cancelled actually, so Bartholdi and Emil do get away, but let's remember that they were the ones trying to make a play onto Influentic.
Yeah, every single time that Lions Creed try to find a big fight, not quite working out.
Shaka's on the chase. Ghost has already been burnt. No flash for Bartholdi, and a Vault Breaker will only get you so far. You are not getting away. Shaka on a rampage. Feathers are fully flared this game.
Absolutely smashing it right now. We know Shaka and Musi are one of the best bot lanes in the league. They're really showing us their prowess right now. Emil needs to find a big pick onto Shaka. That's the way that you get back into this game. How, though? How do you manage to do that when he deals so much damage that he can assassinate you before you can assassinate him?
Right now, that final standing gold on the map will be consumed. MRG now looking to beat down onto the base. In fact, Karga already doing so towards the bot side. Bartholdi still not back up just yet. Half of that inhibitor turret's health has already been removed. It looks like Lions Creed might be trying to collapse onto Karga, but he is already out.
Knows better than to step up too far. Already been caught out one too many times right now. I feel like we also need to highlight Nord has not died. Shakur also has not died. It's an untenable position for Lions Creed to be playing into a composition where you can't kill their jungler or their AD carry. Those are some priority targets around objectives and just in big team fights anyway. So Lions Creed, like we've been saying, you have to get onto these big carries. Influentic gonna nick that one away. Just insult to injury.
By the way, I see 10 stacks on Nord.
Yes.
Do we see the book?
You have to. You can.
Is it a contractual obligation?
Yes, you have to. When you've got 10 stacks, just go for that book right now. The fact that the Maokai is going to be dealing plenty of damage, and where's the magic resist? Is the other question. There's some MR boots on a couple of members, but other than that, you know, your main tank in Achille doesn't really have any.
He's got a Negatron cloak, so it might well be building up towards an MR item. I mean, considering the amount of damage that he's had,
Top.
and Infolentic are putting out. We are looking towards top lane, and Bartoldi again seems to be just caught completely with his pants down. Drops for the 4th time of the game. Infolentic will pick up his 4th kill of the game. And meanwhile, Karga is stood in the mid lane, looking at 3 members and just going, are you going to engage on me? Like, what are you actually going to do to me? While the rest of MRG claim their 2nd Baron.
Just gonna pick that one up nice and easy, and clean is once again the words I'm using to describe MRG. In their other victory we saw versus Espagard, it was the same thing. We don't necessarily think Espagard's the strongest team. Lions Creed also looking to be faltering right here. MRG asserting themselves right now. It is going to be Drake spawning in 1 minute's time. It is Soul Point for Monster Rugby Gaming. They can pick this one up. They're going to be in a huge position. Three of these Hextech Drakes into a soul is huge extra damage, and extra damage is kind of not what MRG needed. Like, they're already doing plenty.
I'll take it. Again, though,
no.
we see Lions Creed trying to step up and get vision, and just like that, 4 of them vanish. Who gives a damn about the Hextech Soul Bloxer when you can walk right on down the mid lane? You have but a Vi standing in your way. 25 seconds until Zuko comes up. It's game.
It should well be game. You can see the base coming out of Influentic. He's got TP to rejoin his team with just an extra couple of items, because why not at this point? It is going to be Nord going deathless. It's going to be Shakur going deathless, and MRG with another dominant victory.
28 minutes on the clock. Bartoldi can step in and try and do something, but it's going to be another body into the back pocket of Shakur. 7, 0, and 8. An absolutely sublime performance on the Zaya as MRG, with a fantastic team effort, close that one out and will get themselves to 2-2.
So, is the Church of Shakur back in session? Because...
Did it ever go anywhere?
That's true.
Nobody told me it went anywhere.
This man is so strong. Shakur and Musi work together alongside Nord to pull MRG to an absolutely stunning victory. You just cannot get on top of this man. His spacing in teamfights is so incredibly clean, and with Musi constantly finding those knockups with that ground entrance, it just felt like there was nothing Lions Creed could do. They found a couple of kills mid onto the Akali, which was good. Nothing else was happening on the rest of the map. Your Darius doesn't get any early kills, and as we've seen with Darius, that's kind of all you need to do.
Yeah, unfortunately not. Lions Creed, once they started falling behind, that death spiral started, and as you said, Shakur never put himself in a position where he was realistically going to die. Every single time, he was stepping forwards, confident, always in Musi and in his teammates to back him up, so that he could make all of those plays and close that game out as cleanly as he did. I believe we are going to throw it to a very quick break, but we should actually have an interview this time around. I've been told that Influentic should be joining us, so hopefully that won't take long to set up. We'll be back in a moment with Influentic. Welcome back, everybody. Hang on, I'm going to have to duck down a little bit. Welcome back, everybody. Sorry for that, taking a little while to set up that interview, but we are joined by MRG and Fluentic. Hello, welcome. Congrats
Hello.
on the win. And I've got to start out. That ASOL, we know you've been playing it a heck of a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You seemed pretty comfortable on it, apart from a couple of early hiccups.
Yeah, I chose to pick it because it was really good into enemy comp, despite knowing that I would probably, be 1v2'd on the mid lane quite a bit. And we played around that as a team pretty well, I think.
It was a really good performance right there. Were you a little bit worried after those first 2 kills went onto the Akali, or were you feeling pretty good about yourself because even if your lane was a little bit iffy, the rest of the map was still going quite well for you guys?
I was not worried at all. I think I picked that pick specifically just for team fights and for the scaling aspect because Akali couldn't punish me in lane by herself. And they didn't have a team comp to actually punish an ASO pick. So I was completely fine with maybe dying once or twice. Of course, I shouldn't have died, but it wasn't a big issue or stress.
As you say, the little bit of the advantage that Emil got didn't really amount to a great deal. And I mean, it'd be remiss to not talk about your bot lane or at least a little bit. Shaka going absolutely insane on the Xayah that game. It even looked, to me at least, the Braum was in theory a fantastic counter option into it, but still found all of the plays.
Yeah, Shaka was completely popping off, but he does that for most games, to be honest. And yeah, the Braum couldn't really do too much in team fights, especially since he's also countered by ASO and the likes. So yeah.
It was a really impressive performance out of your bot lane, but everybody seemed to be working well together. We saw in the Venom Crest game, you guys kind of just didn't get anything going, but in the Espergard game, and now today, versus Lions Creed, it was really clean play. How are the team comms? Who's making these calls? Who's coordinating all of you guys? Because the team play is looking really clean.
We have Nord and Shaka, actually, as our 2 main shot callers, and deciding lane assignments where we want to go, what objectives we want to play for as well. However, if there's opportunities, like let's say top or mid gets really fed, then we switch over one of the shot callers to them or myself, and we usually play in that kind of effect.
I like the flexible shot calling. That makes sense. Yeah, if somebody's ahead, then leveraging them makes a lot of sense. So, big statement game, obviously, after taking that first win against Espergard. This is very much setting the tone, I'd hope, for MRG going forwards. That's 2 very, very clean, controlled wins. And of course, a loss that was unfortunately out of control, but very much looking great for you guys going forwards. It'd be foolish to say your hope isn't top 2, but where would you place yourself currently in the grand scheme of Div 2?
Oh, honestly, coming from me, I'd say we're at least maybe 3rd best team, maybe even 2nd. But I think it's hard to judge because we're only now just hitting our stride. The first game was a bit of an iffy one, but now we've decided which comps we play best for and which kind of champs we want to play for, as well as all the flex picks. And now we're actually really just hitting our strides, and I hope it's showing. Yeah.
Just quickly, the question of that top team, you're probably saying Venom Crest, they look super strong. Who is that other team that's possibly better or at least on the same level as you guys?
Yeah, Venom Crest was going to be the top team. I think, honestly, I don't know which team. I was mainly just trying to be humble, but that it's always better to be humble, better safe than sorry, you know. Maybe there is a better team and we haven't faced it yet. But if you're asking me, I don't know. That's more someone like someone else in my team would be able to explain that more.
Fantastic. Do you want to do any quick shout-outs in Fluentic before we let you go and bask in the glory of that win?
Shout out to my Terraria squad. Dario, Harrison, Kane, the squad. And yeah, and to my amazing team who performed really well today, and all the coaching staff associated too.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Influentic, for coming for the interview. That is going to do it for us for the time being, at least. We will be back in a few moments, though, because 42 Gaming are going up against Carolina Lerner. Do not go anywhere. You don't want to miss it.
Awesome.
Welcome back once again, everybody, ahead of the final game of today, 42 Gaming versus Carolyn Erner. And, well, we've got the least possible information against the most possible information, Bloxer.
Absolutely we do. Right now, 42 Gaming have played one. They've played one singular game, whereas Carolyn Erner have played themselves 7 games right now. I mean, okay, technically they've played 6 because one of those victories is an FF versus Monster Rugby, and so one of those doesn't give us information on champions and things, but still, they've played the most games. They've currently got the most wins as well. 5-2 is a very respectable score. It's 2 wins versus Anima, which is, pretty interesting that they're already done with Anima at, week 2 in the split so far. But like you said, a ton of information on what we are expecting Carolyn Erner to want to play.
Do we want to talk about how that one game from 42 went?
It went poorly.
Well, yeah, the loss versus Anima, unfortunate, to say the least. But obviously, that's only one game, and we can talk about, of course, there's a certain potential wild card that we could possibly mention, a certain Fruity Fresh in the mid lane. It likes to pull out all sorts of crazy things.
It really does. There is still the possibility that 42 just haven't put on peak performance. I mean, like Influentic was saying, a lot of teams trying to find that cohesion between each other right now. And 42, they haven't played a lot on stage yet. They're still going to be finding their footing. So far, we've only seen the Ahri out of Fruity Fresh in the mid lane, which is not a particularly interesting champion. And the fact that 42 lost to Anima, and we've just seen Anima get bodied by a lot of different people at this point in the split, it does raise some questions. If 42 are able to take down Carolyn Erner, then, I mean, that completely turns around the narrative about this team. If Carolyn Erner do manage to pick up this win, though, it sort of solidifies our expectations of 42 not being one of the top teams in this league, and increasingly makes us think that maybe Carolyn Erner are the real deal.
Yeah, we saw them. We've seen a lot of games out of them, and the ones that they have won have, for the most part, looked pretty clean. But don't want to harp on about the dropped ball that was the Blue Whites game. That's a game that I think a lot of people would have expected them to win, and they were winning for a good period of it. But one stumble, one fluff, Blue Whites snatched that game away from them. And of course, that's not a performance they want to repeat if they want to keep their top spot.
But it does show that, sure, this Carolyn Erner squad are able to pick themselves up quite a lot of victories, but they are not infallible. They can still fall down against not the strongest of opposition, so even if they're in a big lead during this game, we'll have to keep watching out, make sure that they don't drop the ball once again. Here we see it. A lot of games played versus not a lot of games played. Draven, the first ban off the board.
Immediate takeaway from Floops. By the way, the NLC Production 5 and 4 accounts are still Thomas and Floops. Unfortunately, they've been having some account issues, so they will be playing on production accounts, as I believe they have for quite a few of the games so far this split. Cassante Yasuo taken off the board as well, so 42 very much going all in on the targeted bans.
Exactly, you know the kind of things that K5 are liking to play. The Yasuo's already popped up twice already for Thomas, and so yeah, makes a lot of sense to take it off the board, whereas a lot more standard bans out of K5 because we don't know what the style 42 are looking for right now is going to be. Cassante Gragas, they're super strong in the meta right now. We've seen what Cassante can do, just gives you so much power. Milio going to be this final ban out of Carolyn Erner, and the Nico has come off of the board. The LeBlanc is still available, yeah, and as soon as you let that one through the bans, it is going to be first picked by 42.
Question now becomes, what does Thomas want to play into this? The cat has made it through phase 1 of the ban, so we could see just a nice and simple bot lane pickup here if Carolyn Erner want to look in that direction, or they could answer the LeBlanc, or they could pick a jungler. There is plenty of options that they could look to take here. Obviously, they don't want to give away too much just yet.
There's been a lot of Xayah play coming out from Floops, so that's definitely a possibility. Maokai going to be picked up, lots of flexibility as we've already highlighted, and it just gives you so much from that Nature's Grasp. We've seen how you can just turn around a team fight by having a lot more priority. Kai'Sa instead going to be the pickup, and that's an AD carry we have not seen a lot recently.
Maybe not even an AD carry block, so we saw it picked up by VTO as a counter option into the LeBlanc. Was played to great success. I would not necessarily put it past Thomas to not play that in the mid lane. And of course, you can still flex it to bot lane if Floops feels confident enough in his own matchup to pick that one up himself.
definitely can. Aphelios gonna be the pickup. Aphelios into Kai'Sa, also not a great lane for the Kai'Sa, and so feeling more and more like we're gonna see this one into the mid lane. You highlighted it, and I wasn't sure if we were gonna see it, but the fact that K5 let the LeBlanc straight through the bans does usually highlight that they had a counter prepared and ready. You know your opposition is just gonna pick this one up. The question is it enough to be able to shut down what is an exceptionally strong LeBlanc with Static Shiv? 42, gonna take the Ornn as well. It's also a take away from Emperor. He's been enjoying quite a lot of Ornn play. The way that K5 like to play is something tanky in the top lane and something a little bit more aggressive actually in the jungle. Things like the Vi Viego. All of these picks have been floating around. Interesting to see if it is the jungle right here.
I mean, we've already got the Maokai locked in, but as you say, Emperor does like tanky picks. This is not a matchup where he suffers hugely. Instead, though, the Gnar is going to be locked in for Emperor in the top lane, so a bit of a divergence from his normal, more tanky options. There's a lot more onus to make huge Gnar plays.
Lulu gonna come off the board. Don't want to see that paired up with the Aphelios. Like we've talked about previously, he likes either enchanters or he really likes to have himself that Thresh. Potential for another Blitzcrank maybe if Cabs wants to get a little bit hyphy. Things that you want to ban away now. You're expecting this to be a mid lane Kai'Sa for right now, so you still need your entire bot lane.
Vi is going to be taken away from the side of Carolina, so I think more and more we are looking at just Bash going onto the Maokai. I mean, you could do something weird like Maokai support, but that hasn't really been a playable option for quite some time.
Has not really. It's floating around the edges just because of the priority of the pick at the moment, but not really coming into full-blown meta. Final ban right now out of 42. They want to put it towards the support. Once again is going to be that Yuumi. So, now, do you pick yourself up a support right here? Do you pick yourself up an AD carry? You can leave your AD carry until the last pick to really just use that Kai'Sa flexibility to the absolute maximum. Instead, gonna lock in the Xayah and just confirm to us that this is a Kai'Sa mid.
The question now is, though, what has Nodu-chan got in mind to pick up as a support counter, since they have left support all the way to the last pick of the draft? We will have to see a jungler coming out from 42, and Thornton in seasons past has played a lot of the Jarvan. One of the few things I believe that Xayah can't Featherstorm out of.
It is,
you can go up in the air, but you can't actually go past
get
the
out.
walls.
No, you're still going to be locked in there with the Jarvan, and more than that, you're able to get on top of things like the Kai'Sa too, would have to use that ultimate to try get away. The interesting thing, though, is that do you really want to pair up the Aphelios with that Rakan? It's not usually the premier bot lane, so you're kind of just leaving that one potentially open, and we saw in the previous game how strong it is. I think this is a situation where Cavs was sort of forced into the Rakan alongside the Aphelios. It is a bot lane that they have played before, so they do potentially like it, but it's not the ideal necessarily, but taking it away from the Xayah is huge.
And also, I do like the Rakan in a couple of very specific circumstances, as I think people are probably tired of people saying, worth noting, Killer Instinct, the ultimate of Kai'Sa, is not a blink, it is a dash. A very, very fast dash, but still a dash. If Cobbs can position himself well, you can cancel that dash by using the quickness.
And it is going to be... Sorry, go on.
Oh, I was just saying, that's going to be a bad situation for for the Kai'Sa if that happens.
Absolutely. It's going to be the Nautilus as the final pick alongside this Xayah, so that's a high-powered bot lane looking to get aggressive early. Going to have the priority over Fruity Fresh and Cabs, unless, of course, Cabs can find a good engage with that grand entrance. But, I mean, come on. Sure, the other lanes have some level of interest, but it's the mid lane that we're going to be watching really now, isn't it?
I mean, if by the mid lane we're going to be watching, we're going to see Korosh step up to the lane, auto-attack the front minion and watch the entire wave vanish, then sure.
Yeah, that's true.
That does, of course, mean that Korosh should be able to get out of lane very early, or at least, well, once the static shield is completed, have the ability to shove and roam, look to influence the rest of the map.
Yeah, potentially watch the mid laners and watch the mid laners in the other lanes, doing things to the other lanes rather than necessarily solo kills there.
Stand at their towers and poke each other using static lightning.
Exactly. It's going to be a fascinating matchup right here. everybody scrambling right now to find something to play into the LeBlanc because you don't want to be locked into constantly banning it. If it works out right here for Thomas, all of a sudden everybody else playing up against Carolina are going to have to be careful. If they just first pick the LeBlanc like a lot of teams want to do, it's not going to work out so well for them. Have to keep in the back of their minds that there is a counter pick. And if this doesn't work, if this Kai'Sa continues to get bullied in like we've seen LeBlancs do so much, what do you do other than it just is a permaban for the rest of the split?
We'll have to find out. Loxer, we are on to the Rift for the final game of the day. 42 on the blue side and Carolina on the red. We really do see a little bit of movement, perhaps interesting from Noda-chan, although I mostly just expect this to be early securing a vision. We're not really seeing all that much in the terms of level 1 spice.
Things are feeling pretty calm right now, and unfortunately there has been no spice throughout all 3 of these games that we've seen today. Nobody really wanting to get too aggressive, throw away a potential victory. 42, we're not sure of their playstyle. However, Carolina, we know that they like to find a lot of ganks out of Bash. He's on a great champion to be able to do so, and play around Flukes and Nodu-chan in that bot lane.
Definitely, and we can already see that positioning-wise, Bash looking to start towards the top side, get themselves that early priority towards bot, and potentially see if they can get some kills onto Flukes. Not quite the... Actually, even more so perhaps the hyper-aggressive angle. If a hook lands, you've got the CC follow-up into the feathers, and there's no cleanse to speak of on Fruity Fresh, so could be a potential angle.
It could be. We are going to see the Jarvan starting up towards the top side of the map, and it is going to be the Chicken Star out of Bash as the standard for the Maokai, you know, when he's not getting bullied around like we saw in the last game. So both these junglers will be making their way down to the bot side early on. A little bit of a protection squad you'd have to imagine for 42, whereas looking for those early ganks out of Carolina, get this Xayah ahead, because we saw in the previous game just how much damage they can do when they are untouched, but I'd have to say there's a lot of threat going to be looking right on top of her. The Jarvan, the LeBlanc, even the Rakan, like you said, going diving in. Need to be just a little bit careful right here as Flukes to not get overly aggressive during these team fights and position in a way that gets you caught out.
They do find themselves a level 2 first. A hook comes out from Noda-chan, but not to speak of. Cubs and Fruity Fresh know well enough that they need to stay back away from that one. You might see an early gank coming in from Thordan, making his way towards the mid lane. I do believe he's been spotted out by a ward in Pixel, though.
Has indeed, just going to have to back away from that. Levels Kai'Sa pretty vulnerable to ganks, doesn't have that mobility that you get out of the ultimate and the E later on. Thordan
fully aware of this.
Uh-oh.
There is the engage onto Thordan from Bash. Very great heads-up play from the Carolina jungler. Thordan not able to get anything done. Bash did commit the flash, which will not be up obviously for the next 5 minutes. But outside of being forced back to base, Thordan is doing okay. Still got his summons up. Will lose a camp or 2.
Already going to proc out that mirror image passive right here. Now Thomas just pushing forwards. Anytime that you can land that isolated Acathian Rain on a Kai'Sa, you can shred through people. And like you said, really heads up play. Thordan was trying to get the sneaky wraparound to find the gank onto Thomas, and it just did not work whatsoever. As it stands though, no kills going down during the early couple of levels. This top lane matchup shouldn't be getting too interesting. It will be big teamfight ultimates, but we've always seen the possibility of an Ornn finding a solo kill, so just, you know, keep a little bit of attention on this top lane whenever they're getting right on top of each other.
Right now, pretty much all chill for, well, aside from Thordan's perhaps slight overcommittal. Bash is showing himself towards the bottom side of the map, will be spotted out by a Tribrush ward, and it is just going to step away, I think, just putting a sneaky little sapling down to spot out Thordan.
The absolute most, just continue to track this jungle of 42 throughout the map. Jarvan such potent ganks if he's able to find them. Nobody's wanting to fall foul to that right now. You see a little bit of a CS lead being built in this mid lane, but as soon as Thomas decides to go in, it just deals a lot more damage in the early levels than this LeBlanc does. You're waiting on a couple of items for the LeBlanc to be able to actually blow somebody up, and
Ooh, that's an Odu-chan in the mid lane. We're looking for the hook
Hook.
onto Korosh. It will land. The flash will not matter in the slightest, and that's first blood handed across to Thomas in the mid lane.
As soon as you look for the aggression out of Thomas, you're going to find a lot of damage, and alongside Nodu-chan roaming up. And this is what you can do. We continue to highlight it with the Xayah. Sure, you're not at level 6 yet, but still, she's a relatively safe champion, and you have a great window where Fruity Fresh and Cabs have gone back to base, where K5 perfectly happy to roam the support up, find that early kill, and as of right now, the counter to the LeBlanc is working. Both of them have got those Kachai shards built, obviously are looking towards the static shivs, but that's double longsword for Thomas. He's going to be dealing so much and can continue to bully out this LeBlanc.
Yeah, and Korosh, I was expecting moderate to high things from him, because did a little bit of reading, is quite a bit of a LeBlanc player, and yet to make anything manifest so far this game. Fruity Fresh will do a nice little bit of rooting, but not much else at all. And we're looking for this priority being converted across the map. Thornton, however, has found his way into the mid lane. Thomas not going to be able to get out of that one. Saves his flash. And we'll just take the L and take the death. Korosh gets on the board.
Knew that he was going to be dead in that situation. And so we said, highlight the mid lane. Both of the junglers and the supports getting involved already. And you can see why the Aphelios Rakan lane, while being okay, is not one of those premier ones. Rakan not unlocked across the rest of the map to go roam around, because the Aphelios is so squishy, has to have that support pretty much constantly. It is going to be the early Drake for 42. There's no real response out of K5. Their bot lane's pushed in. You just killed the mid laner. It's a nice quick timing out of 42. Going to pick this one up for themselves, and so they're still keeping themselves well within touching distance. Throughout the first 7 minutes of this game, things feeling very even.
Yeah, right now the only notable difference perhaps is the CS difference in the jungle. Although there's only one camp in it, I think Bash might have picked up a few cheeky lane CS on his travels. Does mean that he'll be about 100 or 2 gold up. So yeah, not really much to speak about across the map really. It's even Stevens. First Drake has only been picked up. We're looking towards the Herald. Again.
Fully warded.
Yeah, this keeps happening.
How's the Oscar level performance out of Floops and Nodu-chan to try to keep this job in here? They know full well that he's here. Have to pretend that
surely
he's not.
Not. You surely can't dive this.
No, of course you can't. It's just wasting
There's
time,
the level 6 as well.
Gonna be far too risky, and so that's quite a lot of time invested out of Thornton not to get anything at all. Because Bash was well aware of where the Jarvan was, going to go for a little bit of an excursion into the opposition jungle. Korosh pretty low, could go for the dive.
Is going to go there with the flash, and the damage should come through easily. Actually, Korosh managing to flash away. The killer instinct had already been used from Thomas, and so Korosh is able to get away. However, that does mean a mid laner out of lane, and so Thornton is just going to have to catch the wave. Bash could look to start at the Herald, but he's a bit low.
Just going to go back to farm. It was a nice play with the distortion flash out of Korosh to just keep himself alive, but still had to turn tail and run away. And it was a much more effective gank out of Bash than it was out of Thornton down in the bot lane. Got lots of pings right now onto this Herald. Bash super low, not a lot of mana on him either at this point. So 42 would have a pretty good window. Be careful not to overextend. Pings onto the mid lane instead.
Worth noting, there's the flash coming out from Thomas, saving it for the Cataclysm. A great call. Cutlight is in a bit of a rough situation here. Bellows Breath will get him away from the wallop stun, but it's going to take a lot of damage for his trouble. Sticking around for now, but Bash is around, and right now Thornton is alone on the Rift Herald. I think he has to get off this one.
Bash managed to heal up massively just from those Krogs, and so is going to be here, bully away, and the potential window to go for this Herald has disappeared. Emperor getting good pressure right now onto Cutlight, but it's a situation where kills going down in this top lane without jungle intervention are unlikely, and it's all about these big teamfight ultimates, the Gnar and the Ornhorn, that we're really watching for. Potential 3v3 right here.
Right. You're not in a good spot, my man. Is not able to get the other half of the ultimate off. Somehow survives with a pixel, but a snipe from Thomas will take him down. Thornton is now on the run. The damage will be coming through. Kurosh is able to get away as well. The Herald is claimed by nobody, but Cutlight playing a little bit too far on the edge, and that will be another kill across for Thomas.
You can see the idea. You've got both Kurosh and Thornton making their way over. You definitely want to fight for this Rift Herald to try to get some plating gold. But he was just way too low after that initial engage we saw from the Mega Gnar on Emperor. And he stepped up way too far, was caught out, nearly survived, had a sliver of HP. That, yeah, Thomas just quickly takes away off of the snipe. Really well played, to be honest. Off of that Supercharge and off of that Void Seeker, sorry. And I mean, what more do you want? Getting another kill right here. Static Shiv is completed for Thomas. Thomas Go sitting in a very strong position. The isolated Acathian Rain at this point, chunking out Kurosh for about a quarter of his HP.
Yeah, and with the Shiv already picked up, it's going to be a little while before Kurosh can come online himself. Does have a TP up and available, of course. With the more recent changes, Unleash Teleport at 10 minutes means we do need to keep an eye on this LeBlanc, trying to make plays on the map.
Absolutely, you have the ability to either just roam down and teleport back in order to not miss out on too many waves, or just find a good teleport position. Nojichan stepping up here.
It's stepping up, but it's pretty damn tanky, and Cobb's immediately going to have to battle dance away from that one. Meanwhile, Emperor is going to look to start up the Herald himself. Bash is miles away here. This could end up just being the top laners fighting for it.
Indeed, none of the junglers particularly interested in going for this one. See just the amount of question mark pings and things that K5 are laying down.
They've made it in quicker. They will find the angle onto Floops. Nodichan has to flash out and away. And that was a fantastic use of the Blast Cone from 42. Thornton and Kurosh avoid the control ward that is in the bot side pixel brush. They will now be able to step in and claim their second Drake of the game.
And more than that, K5 knew that something was up. They couldn't see. Far too many members were worried about getting jumped on. But the amount of engage that you have, when you have a Rakan, when you have yourself a Jarvan, it's just far too easy to get on top of them. And despite having that Featherstorm, just going to be taken out is Floops. Top lane Emperor managing to pick himself up a couple of plates, but not too much going over. It's a big play for 42. Now, K5 looking for this Herald once again. There doesn't seem to be any real response, not with Thornton down on the bot side.
No, this should be a pretty easy pickup from Carolina, although you do need to make something happen with it pretty quickly if you want to take advantage of that plate gold. But a minute and a half on that before plates fall. Kurosh is back in mid lane, has now finished off the Static Shiv. We'll be able to start scaling up, and I love the rough symmetry of our mid laners. We've got boots, we've got statics. They're both 2 and 1. All is right in the world.
Double blasting wand right there for Thomas. He's looking pretty strong right now. Both of these mid laners are going to look to clear waves constantly with the Static Shift, but also just blow somebody up in the backline. Isolated Acathian Rain, and then just everything that a LeBlanc does is built towards blowing somebody up. As these AD carries, you've got to be super careful, as that hook nearly landing onto Fruity Fresh. Instead, just about going to be able to avoid that one. We've not got another big objective for quite a while, so it's back to farming up lanes and these junglers trying to find something. Thornton looking mid lane.
Red and white are there, but there is the immediate engage. Flash was not actually used by Thomas Go there. Oh, no, never mind, it was just a little bit late. I thought that was some amazingly timed killer instinct to get him out of there.
Not
in
quite.
fact, both got used, it seems.
Yeah. Needed to use everything in his repertoire to get away, to avoid that Cataclysm and then those chains as well. Be able to survive, that's the most important thing, because these mid laners have got massive targets on their backs, both 2 and 1, sitting at relatively similar CS. There's a big CS difference though in the top and jungle, both in favour of K5.
The plates have fallen. Bash is currently trying to mirror Thornton towards the bot side. Nature's Grasp is available. Hook will find Cobbs. Bash is getting in pretty swiftly. Should be pretty easy for Cobbs to just absorb the Nature's Grasp, step away. Nice and easy. No plate gold picked up by the Rift Herald for Carol and Erna. They will still have it for a couple of moments longer though.
continue to try their best to bully out this bot lane. Don't allow Fruity Flesh to be able to scale into the late game, because you have the scaling on your side in this bot lane for 42. You're in a much better position the later this game goes when compared to a Xayah and Nautilus. You just need to get to that point. Right now, sat down quite a lot of CS. Mid lane, pretty even, but every other lane is a big lead right now for Carolina, and that's where most of their 3k gold lead is coming from.
Emperor is going to get caught up. Both halves of the ultimate will land in. Not quite able to go mega in time, and Thornton will take that one down. How much damage 42 can do to this top tower in his absence? Bash is here. Should be able to clear out the wave pretty effectively. But that is another kill into the back pocket of 42.
42 keeping themselves in this game. They've got 2 Drakes as well, which gives them a lot of priority around the next one to either go for it or decide maybe they don't want to. Try and get onto the second Rift Tower potentially. Lots of different options available. Nodichan
might be in little trouble. No flash. Hex Flash is not going to get you anywhere, my friend. Fruity Fresh will claim his first one of the game. And 42 doing a great job of punishing K5 players that just aren't where they're meant to be.
The Monarch going to be completed right here for Bash. He's going for that build that gives you a little bit of AP damage because you need it. Sure, you're going to get some out of the Kai'Sa, but it's a hybrid build. It's not going to be full AD, full AP, I mean. And you're not going to get any out of your Gnar or your Xayah, so you're relying on this Maokai being able to do a little bit of extra damage. It does give you such good priority around objectives too, when you have that extra damage onto those saplings. Top laners continue
if you want this.
It's a decent amount of damage. It's not quite a wet noodle fight because Gnar isn't really a wet noodle in either Mega or Mini form, but not quite going to be able to get through all of the health bar coming out of this Ornn. As highlighted, Trinity Force is completed, and you really need it to be able to get through the tankiness that you're going to get out of an Ornn and Jarvan.
Yeah, although we are seeing the more bruisery Jarvan build coming out, it has been more popularized of late. The Gore Drinker, we probably see other tanky items, perhaps a Sterix Gauge picked up as well. However, we are talking towards the next Drake. It just spawned onto the map.
Did indeed. K5 looking to pick up their first one. We've got everybody around. Cutlight is walking his way down too.
Onto the Hex Gates, though. He needs to make sure he doesn't get caught. Hook will land. He does have Flash available. Kurosh also gets caught in the Nature's Grasp. Thornton still on the backside. He got completely forgotten about. Tomasco is able to pick up the kill onto Kurosh. Here comes Cutlight trying to make things happen. But unfortunately, the jungler gets left out to dry. Sure, you do get Tomasco, but now you need to go anywhere away from the rest of this K5 lineup. Emperor is going to send Cutlight under his tower.
Boy.
The Ornn is as good as dead. Another hook will land onto Fruity Fresh, and he is fresh no more because he will be rotting in the dirt.
It's going to be a huge team fight. You're going to get the Drake and 5 kills right here for Carolina. The only good thing out of that play for 42 is the fact that there isn't a Baron for the rest of Carolina to move on to. And Thornton, he goes into the backline and just gets caught. Lovely hook out of Nodi-chan. Sure, he's able to survive, but it doesn't really matter. Nature's Grasp landing onto 2 very important members. Going into the backline is Thomas, manages to hit a big amount of damage, kills out Korash, and from that moment onwards, it's just a split fight. All the members of Carolina are able to just move onto the Drake, pick that one up, and then run down the opposition. Only kill they're going to get is onto Thomas, and he did his job. He killed out the LeBlanc, which is all this counter-pick Kai'Sa is meant to do.
Yep, fantastically played from Carolina. We saw the game perhaps going 42's way a little while, but once we find ourselves into the team fight, the shot calling of Carolina shines through. They find themselves those kills. They will extend their gold lead to 4,500. 42 can balance that out a little bit, get an objective bounty, get that second Herald in pocket, potentially open up a tower there as well.
But you now already know, as 42, that you don't necessarily win these big team fights. Cutlight wasn't able to hit a big Ornn Horn either, and so things just not quite going right. However, level 12 onto this Ornn. Emperor getting caught out.
It's a lot of numbers there. The charm will land, the knockup will land. He is about to go mega, so could potentially get out. Knockup, however, is going to catch him. He will remain stuck in the box until Cobbs will eventually take him down.
There's not a lot happening on the rest of the map for K5. Yeah, they're putting a little bit of pressure onto Korosh and onto this bot lane turret, but not taking too much right now. Find something in order to not make this play a total loss. It seems like it will be.
Thornton,
Thornton,
you do not want to be there, my man. Cobbs is coming through as well. Cutlight will arrive also, but Thornton is already dead. Cutlight is able to get the ultimate off, but he's not really doing a great deal. Now it's just run to the hills for 42. The damage is coming through. Tomasco goes forwards, finds himself that one. It will be picked up by Floops. Now on a rampage on this Xayah. And K5 are very much looking in control of the game.
After you show 3 members towards the top side as 42, you can't then just teleport your way into the bot side and not expect to get caught out. It's going to turn into a turret as well for Thomas, and he's showing up super strong in these fights. Both this AD carry in the mid lane and AD carry in the bot lane are doing absolute work. And once again, we've got an unkilled Maokai. We saw it in the previous game. We're seeing it again. This build that you get with the Radiant Virtue as well as the Demonic, it just keeps you alive for so long.
Also, in fights like this, the Maokai often ends up being a low priority target. You need to get those carries. And so, yeah, with the Radiant Virtue healing, with the extra health that you're getting from going Demonic, it is just kind of conducive to survival. So unless Bash gets heftily caught out on his own, then I don't expect this state of affairs to change very soon.
No, not particularly. If you dump all of your damage into the Maokai, like you said, you're pretty happy with that as Bash. You're taking damage away from many other members. We've got first items completed on everybody, some second items completed on Carol and Erna. They are up by, what is that, about 6,000 gold, feeling very good about themselves. The next Drake spawning in 1 minute's time, so establishing mid lane priority, establishing top lane push 2 with Emperor. He has got TP, but can also move straight towards the Baron right now. And as 42, do you feel confident enough to step up?
Fruity Fresh takes Void Seeker, 3 back-to-back Void Seekers, and he's immediately unable to fight.
Yeah.
Through 3 presses of the W button. It now is on Carol and Erna to start up that Baron and call 42 to answer them. And we see Tomasco just playing them, keeping them at arm's length. Again, the Nature's Grasp completely denies 42 from making anything happen. And now Tomasco is going forwards onto this. Thornton and Cobbs trying to do something, but they're not your damage dealers. You're not able to finish this one out. The ultimate from Fruity Fresh will do a little bit, but the damage is already done as Carol and Erna secure the Baron.
I love it. You often see the tanks and the supports playing Gatekeeper. No. It's Gatekeeper Kai'Sa. She's absolutely fine to just step forwards. As you said, every single one of those Void Seekers. Oh, no, Duchan. He's even going to survive.
Yep, not to worry. Korosh in. I think this turret is just dead to rights. 42 cannot do anything about it. In the meantime, Bash is securing Carol and Erna's second Drake of the game. No response again from the side of 42. I'm not even going to burn Smite for it.
Nope. There is absolutely no need, because at this point it feels like 42 don't know what to do. They are 10,000 gold behind. If we get to the point at which Soul is available, it's going to be potentially a 5 Hextech Drake Soul 4k5. Everything is going in their favour. And as 42, where do you play? Do you play around the 2-2 and 2 LeBlanc? I mean, sure, still got enough damage to be able to burst somebody if they press no buttons, but you've got the Featherstorm out of the Xayah, you've got that Killer Instinct out of the Kai'Sa, and everybody else is too tanky to be blown up. If your LeBlanc cannot assassinate the backline, the LeBlanc is not useful. Sure, she's great at wave clear, but with Static Shiv, if you're just being a wave clear bot, you're not really playing LeBlanc right.
Yeah, Korosh has made a couple of decent plays, but also there is just the nature of LeBlanc is kind of a difficult champion to play around.
Yeah.
The angle that she usually is looking for is wanting to be off to the side, not necessarily with the entire rest of her team, looking to find those assassinations. Meanwhile, Tomasco is just going, all right, well, my team are sieging up. I know where 42 are going to be. I'm going to keep on firing Void Seekers. I'm going to keep on making sure that they stay honest and underneath that tower.
Emperor perfectly happy too to just pick himself up this tier 2 turret, 600 gold, and Emperor's already feeling pretty good about himself. The one going to go down in the top lane too. Right now, 42 are just getting choked out of this game. They need to find a big fight. They need to find a pick onto those fairly important carries of the 2 AD carries we see in this game, Kai'Sa and the Xayah. To find that play, it's all on Thornton, I'd say, to find a big Jarvan Cataclysm. If he can't, this game feels a little bit done right now for 42.
It also seems that when Jarvan goes in, there is no way of him coming out.
No.
Which is a big issue. It needs to be Thornton finding that Cataclysm and somebody executing on it as well, because we saw a Cataclysm get dropped onto Tomasco. And it was a Jarvan and a Rakan.
Not happening right now, and K5 playing this one once again really well. The early game was a little bit back and forth, but once they found their footing, feeling pretty good. Nature's Grasp gonna go in more as a defensive zoning tool than anything. All they want right now is to keep the pressure up.
Looking. There is the call coming through. Featherstorm has been used by Fluke. They're trying to find the damage forwards. Nodachan will go down, but Tomasco has taken down Cutlight. Kurosh dropping super low. The passive will temporarily keep him alive, but Tomasco is not going to have any of it. Picks up another one. Bash has found himself in the middle of 3. I think will eventually drop. Thornton just about keeping himself alive.
Emperor?
But in the meantime, Emperor is on the Nexus turrets. Will have to back away as the rest of 42 are now not going to have any more of his shenanigans. Thornton miraculously still surviving. 42 persist, but they did not win that fight convincingly. They are merely extending the game.
But that's what you need to find right now. 42 showing that they can fight back. What did we say? An engage out of the Jarvan that manages to land onto either the Kai'Sa or the Xayah. It was not the Kai'Sa, but it was going to be right onto Floops. Despite the fact he used the Featherstorm, still going to get taken out. You need a couple of more of those. You are still down by 10,000 gold. But at this point, stabilizing and just finding any way to keep your Nexus alive is good. The ornaments still aren't coming out of Cutlight. We are 26 minutes into the game, and he's only level 13. But once those upgrades begin to come through, 42 are going to be finding themselves in a better spot at least. Nodachan, oh, he's continually looking. 42, they are fighting back, but Carolina still 100% in control of this game, and they can play around the Drake spawning in 1 minute's time if they want.
Emperor has TP to the top lane. Baron coming up in a minute. Next Drake coming up in a minute. It is going to be entirely Carolina's tempo that sets this one up. And still, the Void Seepers keep on going. And there's no answer to it. It's from such long range, way outside of anything 42 can do.
And that's why you go this Kai'Sa build with a decent amount of AP, because they do land for so much damage, and you don't need to be constantly shredding out anybody as this Kai'Sa with AD, because you have the Xayah. Engage
Thornton,
though.
that's an incredibly hard engage. Looking for Tomasco. They're trying to get forwards, but the damage is not there. The chase is not there. And that's a Call of the Forge God going right between the goalposts. That is a lot of ultimates consumed, burned. And there's still 15 seconds before the Baron's up. And what did
Nothing.
Carolina burn? Oh, it's a Killer Instinct. It's already halfway back up.
It's not a lot happening right now for 42. They are going to be able to pick up themselves this Drake. And once again, when you are this far behind, anything is good. Sure, you're trading it out for the Baron. Absolutely. Carolina are happy with the way that this trade goes. But the fact that 42 are not just rolling over and letting the game come to them, are still pushing forwards, looking for those engages. It's just unfortunate out of Thornton that he's trying to find these big engages now. They needed to have happened about 10 minutes ago, but better late than never. We'll see if 42 can continue to stall this game out, or if K5 are just going to clean this one out for their 6th win of the split.
Looking pretty dire right now for 42. They will need something big to happen. Emperor is... Cutlight's there, but there's not really anything he can do. Emperor already going mega, already jumping out. 42 can't find the angle. 2 inhibitor turrets drop. The bottom one has already fallen. Now the inhibitors are laid bare. I think it is coming down to a desperate final defense at the Nexus turrets. Emperor beating on the top inhibitor. They will be pushed back from the middle one for a moment, but Waves now crashing towards the last Nexus turret. Emperor has been found. They are committing quite a lot to getting him, though, and he is able to get out and away from this one. Thornton taking a bit of damage. Cutlight has to flash, but the damage is far too much. The plasma will proc, and turn the Ornn to dust. Thornton goes in and goes golden, but there's no follow-up at all. That's a double kill for Thomas Go. Kurosh will be able to find Emperor, but it is nowhere for 42 to hide. It is not the meaning of life today as Thomas Go gets a quadra kill to close out the game for Carol and Erna. They go 6-2.
6-2 for Carol and Erna. This team seems like the real deal. 42 though, gonna fall to 0-2, and beyond the first 10 minutes, Carol and Erna had a very clean game. And I think this might be the most important point, not just for this game, but for the whole league. Kai'Sa mid works as a counter to the LeBlanc. The LeBlanc was not able to get anything done, and that Kai'Sa was looking real clean in Thomas's hands.
Yeah, Thomas going all the way to the bank on that pick. We'll close that one out in fantastic fashion. Again, credit to 42. As you said, they didn't roll over. They were still trying to make plays, but at the point of the game they were at, what are you going to do about Void Seekers on a 3-second cooldown that seem to be landing every single time that Thomas Go fires
much
them?
Damage. It's so much damage, and the amount of wave clear that champion is also getting through the static shift, it means that you can't do anything. Killer Instinct makes Kai'Sa pretty safe as well. When she's in AD carry form, a little bit squishier just through the way that the builds work, but as that mid lane role was happy to just sit slightly off of the wave, continue to make as much damage onto it as possible, and then keep landing those Void Seekers, while Emperor, my man, he didn't have any big Gnar ultimates during team fights, but the pressure that he laid down in that side lane was huge. Getting a bot lane inhibitor when things are going a little bit iffy up in the jungle, pushing in the top lane, and just finding those constant bits of pressure that meant 42, even when they wanted to go for a 4v5, they couldn't find it because if they did, they'd just lose half their base.
Yeah, Emperor out to the side, always had the TP available as well, so if something did start to go pear-shaped, then there was a Gnar-shaped pin to fill that hole should it have come up. Carolina, yeah, looking like the real deal. Obviously, when we see other teams get to that number of games played, we'll get a better sample size. Obviously, Venom Crest, having beaten them, still probably sitting as top dogs in the league. We've heard it throughout the broadcast. They are definitely the ones to beat. But yeah, Carolina definitely making a statement that they are in the argument for the top of the table.
Really are. It's an impressive performance out of them, and sure, some of the teams that they faced off against haven't been of the highest quality, but at the point at which you've played 8 games now, sorry, like, that's not a fluke. That is not a fluke to have won that many games in a row. Looking really impressive. Carolina gotta be feeling good about themselves. It'd be fascinating to see that second round robin game, because this is a double round robin versus Venom Crest. That may well be to establish who is the top most dominant dogs in this NLC Div 2. I believe we should have an interview to go to.
Hope so. I think we'll need a couple of moments to set that one up. There is some conversation going on in the production chat, so let's send it to a break and we'll see if we can set up an interview. And then I will be back with you in a couple of moments, either with an interview or to close it out. We'll be back in a few. Welcome back. Shorter gap between the interview this time around. We are joined by Bash of Carolina after another dominant win coming out. Bash, first thing I have to ask, the Kaiser, was that something that Tomasco picked up after seeing VTO play it, or was it already in his wheelhouse?
I mean, Thomas can play like legit everything. He's like pretty crazy, right? But I'm not sure if he picked it up from that or if he's like watching NLC or whatever. But I mean, he's just playing everything, I think.
And I mean, was that something you'd talked about previously? Because whenever we see teams sat on the red side, it's usually a first ban onto the LeBlanc, but you let that one through. So did you know that you had that counter to the LeBlanc and were happy to let it through?
Yeah, I mean, we were pretty confident in like our ability to counter LeBlanc, and we thought that they might pick it, right? And we just played like a warm-up game before this, right? And we played Kaiser mid there, so just whipped it out.
Sounds quite similar to the story. I'm not going to dig so deep as like anyone who's watched the latest episode of Euphoria. That's basically what we heard from the VTO story. It's like, he played it in a couple of scrims. They didn't go actually very well, but he was just like, guys, weak Isa here.
And hey, if it works, it works.
Sure does.
So, you've played a lot of games in these first couple of weeks. When is it slowing down for you guys? When do you get a break?
I mean, I'm pretty sure we get a break after this game now because Thomas, the little griefer, has to go on like vacation for like a month, right? So we have to like schedule before and after. So that's why we kind of have a lot of games right now. So
yeah, you've had a really good time of it so far. Now sitting at 6-2. Who have you faced up against that felt the strongest? Other than Venomcrest. We kind of expect Venomcrest to be sat at the top. Who else has felt particularly strong? Blue White's obviously the other team that you lost to. Are they feeling like one of those top teams too?
we pretty much lost that game on our own. I mean, I think that was more on us than them.
I know what I have to ask, because I know that despite an FF yesterday, I believe you guys played a practice game against MRG today. Do you want to maybe tell us how that went?
That not the that didn't happen. Let's say that. But I mean, it's a warm-up game, right? So we're like we were not
Scrim mentality. Got you.
Yeah, that was it. But other than Venomcrest, like I think we're doing pretty well, doing most of the teams here. So
Absolutely. I mean, you guys are looking really strong. Do you think that playing all of these teams right at the start of the split has actually been a decent benefit for you guys? Perhaps a couple of the teams haven't really found their stride playing together? Or do you think it's just been you guys are the stronger team at the moment and are feeling good?
I mean, there could be something said about the mentality thing, right? Like we got a few wins early, and then we just keep going on the streak. But I'm not sure. Maybe we're just better as well. That could also be it. Let's hope it's that, right?
We'll see if that continues to be true. Any shout outs back before we let you go?
Shout out to my team. We're popping off. We got put at the bottom of the tier list. Shout out to them as well. And see you at the top. Next tier list, we're gonna be number 1. Yeah.
Nice. Thanks so much, Bash, for coming for the interview. We're gonna let you go.
No problem.
Congrats again on the win.
Yeah. Bye.
He disappeared into the void bloxer. Well, 3 more games on the books, and Carolina looking very scary. MRG potentially getting themselves into one heck of a stride. Bash didn't tell us exactly how that game went, but I think we can infer some things from what he said.
Yeah, indeed. It looks like we're beginning to find a little bit of a distinction between the top teams and the bottom teams. 42, they've only played 2 games, but 2 have been a loss. Anima not having the best time of it either. Neither are Espegard. Whereas up at the top of the standings right now, Venomcrest and Carolina looking super strong. Monster potentially finding their stride with the FF in the middle of those games. We can't really determine quite how strong they are yet, but after this second week, the divide is forming, and this fight for playoffs around that 5th, 6th position is looking like an absolute brawl.
Looking like a complete bloodbath, as you say. Well, That's going to do it for us for today. However, on Sunday, that being the 25th, we will have 3 more games coming your way. Lundqvist Lightside will be playing up against 42 Gaming, Anima versus Venom Crest, and then MRG versus Blue Whites. So again, that could help further establish, well, 2 of those games could help further establish the power rankings of the league. I don't envy Anima.
No, I do not.
I don't think
Anima-
anyone envies anyone for playing against Venom Crest right now.
No, they are absolute powerhouses. It's kind of been the theme of today. There's not enough good things that we can say about the way that Venom Crest are playing, and to whichever team manages to defeat them first, yeah, you'd better watch out for them as potential Kingslayers.
Bragging rights aplenty for them that can take the head of the snake. That's going to do it for us. I have been Brackish Brit. That way, again, I got myself. Black Boxer has been here with me, and a massive shout out to Anne Magical Cow, our producer, who's been popping off as he always does. We will see you on Sunday for more NLC Division 2. And wow, I've done so much MRG that it's just stuck in my brain.
It's in your head.
We'll be back for more NLC Division 2 action on Sunday. We hope to see you there.